July 28th.
Every day.
You guys all ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Always ready.
Welcome, everybody, to the Weathersfield Town Council meeting for Tuesday, June 21st. If Councilman Biggs would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilman.
Absolutely.
Sue, you all ready?
Yes, I am. Thank you. All right, Counselor Biggs,
Present.
Counselor Forrest.
Here.
Counselor Hill,
Here.
Counselor Lesser,
Here.
Counselor O'Connor, Counselor Pelletier, Counselor Pentelow, Deputy Mayor Mazzarella,
Here.
Mayor Rell.
Here. If you notice, there are a couple empty seats there. I believe Councilwoman Pelletier had submitted her resignation, so it may just be still left over on the roll call sheet. And then we do have two absences here tonight. Thank you, Sue, for those. We'll open this up. There are two hearing items up for public comment. One is the grant and aid funding allocations to the town for the public infrastructure work that we'd seen before, and the library improvements. This had been on our agenda last meeting to be heard tonight. Is there anybody from the public that wants to speak on that item? Yes.
Hi, Martha Keneally, 12 Fairmont Street. I am the chair of the library board, and I just wanted to say how grateful we are for this funding, and just a few thank yous. As we go back, as I think of when I came to the library board, our library director, Laurel, at the time, really had started to put a focus on teens and providing space for teens. It wasn't something, it was sort of an idea that she had that our wonderful director, Brooke, took up when she came on board and started not only focusing on teens, but how we could create a more welcoming space in our library, and especially make that main floor. I don't think I'm giving anything away. I remember when we were interviewing you, Brooke, you said, there needs to be more chairs here. We need to have more places for people to be able to sit and feel welcome. And so that was a huge focus of hers that became a focus of our strategic plan, to create a welcoming environment and to address the needs of all learners in Weathersfield. And that is obviously, we do seek to take care of everybody from birth to right through our senior population, and this is going to allow that. I can remember when we came to the Capital Improvement Commission this January, we kind of came with the idea that we would cobble away $100,000 a year towards the state grant, and Mayor Rell, I appreciated it at that time. You said, well, this seems like something that we could elevate to ask for bond funding for. I can remember you were kind of looking through some things and saying they definitely, this is something that seems like it could be eligible. So I appreciated you prioritizing it in that way, which led us to bring it to our state legislators, who took that ball and ran with it. And, big thank you to State Representatives Morinbello, Woods, and Senators Fonfara and Lesser for bringing this forward, and obviously then enriching that with what's happening for the rest of the community. So a huge win for Weathersfield overall. But just appreciate the support that it got here, appreciate the support from our legislators. We're looking forward to bringing this this project forward. And again, I'll just go back to thanking Brooke and her team. It was putting that together. It was going back and putting together that feasibility study years ago that sort of drew out this plan that gave us something to build on for everyone to grasp onto. And a special thank you to the library staff, Ellen, Stephanie, Celia, and Elizabeth, who specifically worked on putting the grant together for the bond. And we're just really happy, obviously. I hope you all vote for it. So, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else on this? Mr. Young?
Good evening, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. I would urge you to turn it down. I'm tired of paying state taxes and I'm tired of paying town of Weathersfield taxes, and I don't see any improvements. All I see is money going out all over the place. And $4 million more this year, don't worry, there'll be more requests coming up, and there have been requests constantly. And as far as the library goes, there's always work being done on that. There was some water thing going on not long ago. There was a number of things that they were working on that. And it seems like an forever and ever thing, everything's got to be repaired. And it really makes me wonder how much our citizens care for these properties when they come in and utilize them, that they have to be repaired. Look at our schools. But getting back to this one here, I would say vote no on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Anybody else? And this is for the infrastructure improvements, I believe in Old Weathersfield and for the library. Seeing none, I will close that hearing for item 1A. Item 1B, this is for a public hearing on the resolutions for the school bond referendum. Just a reminder for those that wish to speak tonight, come up, clearly state your name, address, and you actually have 10 minutes to speak rather than the 5 minutes. Yes, ma'am, in the pinkish red dress back there.
Hi, my name is Avery Kumnick. I live in 115 Old Common Road. I am a fifth grader at Highcrest. I'm going to be a fifth grader at Highcrest Elementary School. I am here tonight to ask you to please vote to allow the people in our town to vote for new schools. I'd like to tell you some reasons why we need new schools. First, we use every space at school. Sometimes I even have to meet with one of my teachers in a small room that used to be a closet for small group work and reading. And the classrooms are really small spaces too, so all my friends and I are cramped up while we are trying to learn. The second reason our school is falling apart. Last year, on the first day of school, I walked in the cafeteria. I saw water everywhere. It was raining off the ceiling of the stage. Also, in the middle of this year, my sister told me she went in the bathroom and she found a dead mouse floating in a bucket that was catching water from a leak. And my friends told me that when they were in second grade, they didn't have water in their classrooms and couldn't see and couldn't use the closed bathroom because there was no water. At the end of the year, I was excited to play my saxophone with the band. I wanted to invite my whole family, but I couldn't. Miss Maury said I could only invite 2 people, and my grandparents were really sad that they couldn't see it. I know I'm just a kid, but I can see when a school needs help. I have a lot of friends in all the schools because of my sports I play. My friends and I know that our schools need help. Please vote so that me and my little sister and my cousins could have a better school. Don't you want us to have a better education, the best education possible. Thank you for listening to me.
Gentleman, the Highcrest shirt. And if the kids are coming up, the kids don't have to give their address. They can just give their first and last name.
Hi, my name is Caleb Klopfer, and I am going into 4th grade at Highcrest Elementary School. I have special needs, and comfortable and safe spaces are important to me. My school does not have enough safe spaces for me and my friends. Let me tell you what I mean. First of all, because of my special needs, I see Miss Rodriguez, the school psychologist, and Miss Waltman, the school social worker, a few times a week. Me and other students like me often have a need to be in a space that allows us to run around, cry, or just let out our negative energy. Unfortunately, my school is so small that Miss Rodriguez and Miss Waltman do not have large enough spaces to allow this to happen. I have friends like me that go to other schools that have calming rooms they can go to, with swings and other calming items such as trampolines and beanbags to help them be more successful. This is because their schools are large enough to fit a space like that. Secondly, I go to speech therapy with Miss Ricano. Did you know her office is in a closet? That is a big problem in a very small space. She can only have 5 chairs at her table, and the table that we sit at is very small. There are no windows, and light coming through windows help kids like me feel like we are in a safe space. I also have asthma, so being in a closet makes it hard for me to breathe, especially during COVID. I know that all of my teachers at my school want to do the best they can for my friends and me, but they need the space to be able to make it happen. Can you please build a bigger Highcrest Elementary School?
Ashley Klopfer, 321 Hangdog Lane. I'm his mom. My name is Ashley Klopfer, and I am a parent of 2 boys that attend Highcrest Elementary School. Additionally, I am an officer of the PTO for the Highcrest Elementary School. Since my children have attended Highcrest, I have observed many issues that are a cause for concern necessitating a new Highcrest as soon as possible. Minor concerns resulting from the current Highcrest landscape include limiting community events that can be hosted in the school due to size, or limiting the number of family members that can attend events hosted at the school. Most recently, my son participated in 6th grade Step Up, in which each family was limited to the number of guests due to the size of the school. Not only does it impact the number of people who can attend events, but also storage space, including space for custodial equipment, classroom storage, office supply storage, storage for PE equipment, and PTO items is limited. Although Wethersfield Public School students now have Chromebooks, Highcrest has lost its space for a computer lab, which allowed for more computer instruction for students. There is also limited library space, hindering the books and texts that are available to students in the school. Finally, classroom space is small, limiting what teachers can have for flexible seating, station rotation space, and storage of classroom materials. This limited space has required the music teachers to teach out of mobile classrooms. As a teacher myself, I can't emphasize the importance of storage space and movement space in the classroom for supporting students in both academic and social-emotional learning. Large concerns surrounding Highcrest Elementary School include both safety and sanitary issues. From a safety standpoint, all classrooms at Highcrest are bordered with glass windows that can be seen straight through, even when driving down the street. In the time of school violence and what recently happened in Uvalde, Texas, having secure classrooms that are not fully exposed to the public is more important than ever. From a sanitary concern, there have been times when mouse droppings have been found in the school, even in the PTO storage space near food. That can lead to the spread of a disease known as hantavirus, a respiratory disease spread through the fecal matter of rodents. Additionally, the leaking roof that has even caused damage in the cafeteria can lead to sanitary and air quality concerns. There are so many reasons why building not only a new Highcrest, but supporting the needs of all the elementary schools in Wethersfield are essential. The young members of Wethersfield are the future of our community. Providing them a place to grow and learn is essential for supporting their growth and helping to sustain the community of Wethersfield in the future. Please vote in favor of the referendum. We place our trust in our Board of Education members to lead our schools into the future. They support this, and I hope you all will too. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak?
I'm just going to read some notes off my phone. Sorry, my printer wouldn't work. I'm Melissa Perry, 18 Clove Hill. I have 2 school-age children that are ages 7 and 9, and I also have a 2-year-old that isn't yet attending school. I am speaking tonight to ask you to please vote in favor of putting forward the referendum for the school construction plan. This plan to build and renovate our town's elementary schools is of utmost importance for all of us here in town. Having spent time in all of our elementary schools recently, it is clear that our buildings are in disrepair, are bursting at the seams, and barely able to accommodate our current student population. In addition, our buildings need safety updates that simply aren't possible with the current building layouts of the schools we have. I firmly believe that our children and our school staff deserve safe, healthy buildings in which to learn and grow. In this time of school violence and with a pandemic that is still going on, things like updated ventilation systems and safety improvements should be at the forefront of all of our minds. I would ask you to vote for this, because even though 2 of my children will probably not even see these new buildings, it's an important step forward for our town as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Young? He had his hand up. Sorry, sir.
Good evening, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. I looked the information over on your agenda regarding this proposal for referendum. $279 million is a lot of money to spend. And all of us who work, we pay state taxes and we pay town taxes and federal taxes. And that's a tremendous amount of more burden this is putting on us. We should have been looking at something more moderate, like fixing up or just adding on to 1 or 2 of the buildings. And that would have been it. Because our population is not expanding, it's not projected to blow up. And when you look at the information on the Emerson Williams, they want to increase the building site 17%. They want to increase Webb by 22%. Where is our expansion for this? Why? Why do we need to expand this much? Are we going to have more local children, or are we going to have outside our local area children coming to our school and causing us taxpayers to pay what we have to end up paying? Also, we have a number of choice students that come to our school, and as I mentioned at the budget hearing, we get $6,000 a child. How many, well, we have 100 and some children that come from the choice program. And it costs us $18,000 a child. We're losing $10,000 per child due to the choice program. I don't get why we do this. It's those choice students come from somewhere else. That's where they belong, and that community should be taking care of them. Our community should be taking care of ours. On the other hand, I've also looked at the information that was presented in the agenda, and there's a whole slew of reasons that are given for the need to replace buildings, modify buildings, whatever they want to do. They talk about roof replacements. Well, we give them money every year to do things, and you give them extra money to take care of roofs. Now they say all 5 of them are going to need it. Where's this money been going in the past? Most windows are single paned, inefficient and deteriorating. Again, what did they do with the money? They spend it somewhere else? I know they've asked for it. I assume you gave it to them. You gave them bundles of money. And it goes on. The exterior masonry repairs and repointing. And I'm getting around to something in a moment that we need to really talk serious about. They're talking here about ventilation, equipment. Electrical services are old. Well, let's think about all of this. I understand that electrical service could be old, but so doesn't my house have old? And it's the same one, electrical service. What's going on here with our buildings while they're old and they need to be replaced? The bones of these buildings obviously are good. Fixing them up is probably the best thing to do, and if they need to have one room, if there's what do they call those rooms that are temporary, if it's no good, get rid of it and put a real room on. But there's a lot of things that our schools currently have that don't have to be torn up, like Highcrest and what's the other one? The other school that they're proposing to tear
Hammer.
down. Hammer, okay. Those schools all have good bones in them, and some repairs on them will keep them going for years to come. And can we carry this kind of debt, Mayor? We pick up debt all the time, but this is a big chunk. And what is it going to do to our taxes? And then, as I speak about the summary of major findings, the windows are single paned, the masonry, the outside, the repointing of the exterior, that kind of stuff. Then I turn and I look at the barn on Kisha Farm. Something that it needs ventilation, it needs windows, it needs new siding, it needs new roof, it needs everything. Why aren't we tearing it down? Why are we spending money on a survey regarding the Kisha Farm if for the opposite reason of what the superintendent wants? And you're going to vote, you voted for one already, which was the Kisha Farm, to try to keep it up and going, and now you're going to vote to tear down for the same silly reasons. I'll have a word for that after you vote. But the fact remains, Mayor, we have high enough taxes. We have a program here that is 4 buildings long. 4 buildings, 4 commitments, all wrapped up in one. And then what if something happens along the way? We still have to go forward. Remember the high school, $10 million where they found something that needed to be repaired. Was it asbestos or whatever? That $10 million deal? How many times we had 4 opportunities here for things to happen that are bad. And again, we know what we have. We know Highcrest, if you took off those temporary buildings and put on a real building and added on a couple how many square feet they are, and make it work, that's fine. Same with the other ones. But to go into a big project like this, you're going to chase all the old people out of town, you're going to have left a lot of people with children, and you're going to drown with it. So that's your choice. But my choice is we should not go into this. This is too big of a deal, and the ROI on this, I don't see where it is. Nobody's explained that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. Smith?
Do I have to sign? Just put it down. Okay, it's not clear. Hold, please. Sorry. Yep, no worries. Hi, I'm Sarah Smith, and I live at 60 Blueberry Hill. I will try to keep my remarks pretty brief.
I could stand here for quite a while and detail the abysmal state of our elementary schools infrastructure. And honestly, for the taxes we pay in this town, the physical state of our schools is downright embarrassing, especially the elementary schools. It's hard not to think that this is what happens when it's never the right time to invest in our schools and to upgrade anything. We seemingly wait for fires, some literal, some metaphorical, and we put them out and move on. I could also talk specifically about the blatant safety concerns at Highcrest, which in fact, as we'll talk about, doesn't actually have good bones, where my kids go to school. Just a second on that, given the current climate. Quite simply, we can't renovate Highcrest. Every single classroom has an exterior door, everyone. That's legitimately over 20 entrances to the school. When you walk into Highcrest, even before you get inside, you have a clear sight line into the cafeteria, which is the only place where we can gather, not even as a whole school because there's no room. We can't even have an all-school assembly because it's a fire hazard. When you walk in to buzz in to get your kid, you can see everybody in the cafeteria, flat, straight line. That's a huge problem. And if you can't see that, I don't know how to make you see that. Additionally, we have the COVID numbers, unfortunately, to prove our miserable ventilation. And that's not a secret either. The list goes on. However, the biggest issue for me tonight, actually to be more specific, relates to the town council vote regarding the referendum. It's my understanding that the council votes tonight not on whether they support the referendum, but whether it should get to the voters. We have a Board of Education whose sole job it is to focus on education, that unanimously and bipartisanly, is that even a word? If it's not, it should be, voted to send it through. I'm hoping and assuming that the members of our town council will respect the opinions and expertise of those who voters have elected to advise them on matters of education. To vote no on this tonight would mean that someone is implying that they know better than everyone else responsible for the enrollment studies, projections, and facilities assessments that they've been doing since October of 2018. That's a lot of work. That's also a lot of money. Not only would they be disagreeing with the recommendation of every member of our elected Board of Education, if the town council ignores the unanimous recommendations of the BOE on education, where does that leave us? I would also like to ask anyone who's voting no on sending this to referendum, what is your plan for the schools then? Surely you have one that's better than what's proposed. You're ready to explain why we have spent this money to do these studies and assessments since last October, and then vote against all the recommendations of everyone associated with it. Parents want a shot at this. Please do your job. If it passes on the ballot, it passes. If it doesn't, we reevaluate. But there's no reason not to let the voters decide. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, excuse me. My name is Carrie Hill, and I live at 117 Randy Lane. I'm here tonight to ask that you please vote in favor of the referendum. The Board of Education voted unanimously in favor of it, so I stand here before you to do the same. Without putting this referendum forward, the people won't have the chance to hear and understand the benefits of what this referendum can do for our students. Our town is made up of lifelong residents, as well as people who move into town because of our schools and the historic charm. We need to do better in terms of our schools. I am a Highcrest graduate myself, and I'm proud to see my 3 children roam the halls as soon to be 4th grader, 2nd grader, and eventual kindergartner. What was acceptable for me to enter and go to school at Highcrest is not the case today. All the classrooms, as you've heard, have an exterior glass door, some of which don't close properly or easily, and the rooms are overcrowded. The main entrance has 6 large glass doors that have a direct line of sight into the cafeteria. The security entryway allows the office to buzz someone in, but doesn't have a guarantee that that person will in fact go to the office, as the doors lead directly up a hallway to multiple classrooms. In addition to the out-of-date security, there are the health concerns. The school has poor HVAC systems and the roof leaks. The classrooms at Webb, for example, get up to 50 degrees or only get to 50 degrees in the winter because of the single-pane glass windows. Many people, like I said, those lifelong residents, believe the schools are exactly what it was when they attended it 10, 15, 20 plus years ago. Many of the council members came to the elementary schools in the winter. What is your plan if the referendum doesn't get voted in on the November ballot? Will you be involved in the emergency maintenance plan calls when water's leaking in the classrooms? Are you willing to use the taxpayer dollars to continuously make patch repairs to the buildings that are 50-plus years old? Please pass this through so that we can invite the community members into the schools and they can really see what it is and where their tax dollars are going and why this is so critical to happen right now. We need to do better for our town, the students and parents, and the professionals who are working above and beyond their contracts every day to ensure the health and safety of my children and everybody else who sends their children to those schools. Teaching is a challenging profession. If we want to continue to retain and attract the best educators possible and keep our schools thriving, we need to give them a space that is safe, up to the current codes, and not falling apart. Please vote to pass this through. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Woodward?
Thank you. My name is Bob Woodward. I live at 456 Middletown Avenue, and I've lived there for over 40 years. I guess to start with, I have a couple of questions, and if during the answer time the clock can be shut off, I'd appreciate a couple of answers. A year or two ago, Town Council voted over $200,000 for a new boiler or boilers at the Hamner School. Will that boiler or boiler be preserved in the rebuilding? Tom's shaking his head no. So that means we're going to waste over $200,000 on relatively new boilers over there. My next question is, how much is this $168 million that we're going to vote on? And I don't doubt that the schools need the work. What's it going to do to the mill rate? Can anyone tell me that? I have not read that anywhere. I mean, are we looking at 5 mills a year for 20 years, or what are we looking at?
Mr. Woodward, this is the public comment portion, so those
Okay.
questions would be
Then I will continue
discussed.
to make comments, but that's a question that's priority in my mind, and I don't know what 168 million means for my tax rate in the coming years. Unlike the Board of Ed, and I understand again that this is needed, but unlike the Board of Ed, I don't have the ability to build inflation into our home budget. Our income is going to go up, down, or stay the same, and it's going to happen as it happens. And our bills are probably going up. Yesterday, our local oil company called and said, before the end of June, you owe us 4 more months, not because we haven't paid it, but because that's where the cost of oil has gone, which probably means our contract with them next year will go up 40% or more from last year. I don't have the ability to take my income and make it work. I would like to support this, but I'd also like to hear that the Board of Ed and the Town Council will work to keep the education budget and the town budget, leave the library budget alone, they do good things with their budget, and keep it down and balance it against whatever this mill rate's going to do to us. Then I can support this vote. If I'm not going to hear that, I'm going to have to vote no in this coming election. And regretfully, because I know you need the schools, but I've got to consider where our personal budgets are also. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing on item 1B. And now open it up to general comments. These are general comments by the public on any matters before the town. And yes, similar fashion, state your name, address, but you are limited to just 5 minutes on this one. Seeing none, we will move on to, oh, okay, sorry. Mr. Young?
Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. I mentioned a few minutes ago during my discussion with you folks about the different attributes that the Board of Education is putting out that equal the idea of destroying Highcrest and the other school, and doing the renovation the way that they're suggesting. And you know, we heard from a different committee, and we had the Board of Ed, then we heard from the committee that the barn at the Kisha farm was a tremendous asset to the community. And we all know what little value that has, and the town council has voted to try to keep it up and running. Yet, you know, get it fixed up and use it for whatever they want to use it for. Yet, these schools are in much better shape than that barn. A barn that you have supported to try to keep it there instead of tearing it down and making it disappear. I mean, you voted to spend money on it just recently, and you'll vote some more, and I'm sure that will happen. So I really believe that you got to mix. You go in two different ways on this same type of subject. Furthermore, again, as Mr. Woodward talked, you know, it's tough out there. My income probably won't do very well against this increase either, and I would like to know what that mill rate increase is going to be, and you should have had it. Unless you don't want to talk about it like the Kisha farm, you didn't want to talk about the appraisal that was lower, much lower than what the sale price was. Yet nobody has ever talked about it from the dais. Nobody in public. But no, that's how we do things. I had some other issues that I wanted to talk about, and I just wasn't ready for it. It came up too quick. I thought this would go on for a little while. But I'll come back at the next session, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Anybody else on general comments? Seeing none, we will move now on to item 2B, council reports from boards and commissions. Anybody with any council reports? I've got just one from the Housing Authority. I did talk with the board on one of the meetings a couple weeks ago. Kate Forcier and the board would like to have a tour for the council of the facilities run by the Housing Authority. You know, I did bring up the concern that, you know, if you have everybody, we would have to do a special meeting. But I think we can get around that if we publicly notice, if we do have enough interest from the entire council. I see a lot of folks nodding their heads that they would like to do that. If that is something that the council would like to do, we would schedule it through the town clerk's office, set up a special meeting so that we can take a look at some of these buildings. I know we've done some work, roof repair work on some, and then at the Fuller buildings, I know just a couple meetings ago, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, we voted to go forward with some of the improvements of the slab work that has been deteriorating. So we would want to take a look. But I think everybody's in agreement that we would.
Is it like all the complexes or just the Fuller slab repair, or we don't know?
For the repair work that needs to be
the tour.
Oh, the tour would be any and all complexes that we would like. And I know Kate has planned this in the past. It didn't come through a couple of years ago, but I think we can work with the Housing Authority and the board to find out exactly which buildings we would want to tour and take a look at them.
Sounds good.
Hearing no more reports on boards or commissions, council comments. Any council comments? Councilman Forrest?
Thanks, Mayor. Through you to the town manager, just want to mention that we still have some road deterioration on the Celestine Highway in front of the Borden. We talked about that before. But as I went down the Celestine Highway, I also noted some of, I guess, what we call the Matthew Forrest and Michael Rell manhole covers that are down below grade. And if you run the Celestine Highway and Wolcott Hill Road, at least at a bare minimum, there seems to be quite a difference there in a lot of them. And you can obviously see the ones that are sort of dangerous to regular motorists. So if it's possible, take a look at those. I know that I mentioned this about 2 or 3 years ago. We had someone come through and raise a lot of them. You can sort of see the circles where they got regraded for those. It'd be appreciated if you could sort of take a look at that. In addition to sort of Main Street going down to Marsh on Great Meadow Road, those roads are also in a tough state. So if you could maybe just take a look at that and see. Marsh Street to Great Meadow Road down, it goes to the, under the bridge there. And then even, and down through Marsh Street too. So just something to take a look at. They're getting tough and they're pretty heavily traveled. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Deputy Mayor?
I think all of you, or many of you, might have received a comment from a resident about the road repairs that had been brought up at a prior council meeting. And this resident has an issue with some sidewalks that he's been trying to get repaired for 2 years now. And I would hope that we could address his concerns at the same kind of pace that we addressed the issue that was on Main Street. So I don't know if you can follow up on that, Mr. Town Manager. I'd appreciate it. It's kind of tough to get emails like that because it's very hard to respond. Obviously, the person was quite irritated, and so if we could just try to put some attention to it. Thank you.
Any other comments? I've just got a couple. I want to thank Kathy Bagley and Parks and Rec staff as well as Physical Services staff. The new dock was put in today. Just one caveat, somebody did ask that right now the dock goes straight out, so boats have to parallel park, if you will. Is there a section that we may be able to have like a T put in or like an L out at the end of those docks to make it a little bit easier for boats to park, tie up before they come in? Do we have any part of the new dock that we could, I guess the old new dock, that we could put onto the new dock by any chance?
We can look into it.
Okay, thank you. And then also, I know it's a big issue down at the Cove. The portalet was moved further away from the shed so that on these hot summer days that the portalet does not emit any kind of odors in that area. So thank you again for moving that down a little bit. And then finally, to go along with some of the comments that we've heard about either sidewalk repairs or road repairs, it was a great effort by a lot of our residents with no mow May for our pollinators. But I've been getting a couple complaints from some residents, and I'll provide you some addresses that are either continuing with the no mow May into June and July, or they're just not mowing and keeping proper upkeep on their properties. I will get you a list of some of those that I've received as well. And with that, no other comments. Mr. Town Manager?
So just a couple of items before I turn it over to Derek Greger to update you all on the Main Street crosswalk. For item number 5A, under the bids, I did provide you all at each of your spots with additional information with respect to the firms that bid on this project, as well as the actual RFP, and that was requested by the Deputy Mayor. Wanted you all to have that. Also, item number 7A, under new business, we did reach out to Eversource regarding the requested removal of the tree at 480 Hartford Ave. We have asked them if they can hold off on a decision on that until we get our new tree warden in place, who should be later next week, and they said that's fine, and we'll bring that back to you at the next meeting. So if you could just table that item until the next meeting, that would be great. And now I'll ask Derek to come up and provide you all with an update on the Main Street crosswalk.
Okay, good evening, Council. My name is Derek Greger, Town Engineer. I was asked to come tonight just to give you an update on the Main Street crosswalk in front of the Keeney Center. As you may remember, that was installed last fall, mostly as to address an immediate safety concern. We had been promoting the use of the Keeney Center parking lot for public parking. We were finding that a lot of people were walking up the driveway and crossing Main Street at that location where sight lines were very bad, lighting was very bad. It was just a dangerous situation. So We had installed that as a temporary measure last fall. A couple of reasons. One, to immediately address the safety need, and two, just to see how it functioned, because we were thinking about putting one there anyway as part of our Main Street improvement projects we have planned coming up. Since then, we have acquired some state funding that could be put towards that work. That's been kind of tied together with the conceptual plans we've been doing for the parking lot between Firehouse 1. However, we can break that out and do it separately. So in talking with the town manager today, I think we could utilize some of the funds that were discussed earlier tonight that we're receiving from the state. Some of those funds could be used to supplement the funding we already have for the parking lot. And there's additional funds available. So what we're looking at doing, or most likely going to do, is look at realigning the driveway for the Keeney Center and pushing it a little bit further south. So it is more directly across the street from the driveway along the north side of the Old Town Cafe, with a couple curb bump outs on the north side of that. So the driveways would be on the south side of the crosswalk. We have curb bump outs there to shorten the crossing. We would maintain the existing parking situation as it is. There's a small stretch that's no parking for sightline reasons and safety, as well as putting in some additional signage and potentially maybe additional street light out there for improvements at night. So that hadn't moved forward yet. We're at the point now, if you're willing to accept the funding from the state, then we can start making arrangements to do that project, and we plan to have it done by the end of the year if we can move quickly on it. It depends how quickly the state can get us the funds.
Any questions for Derek? Councilman Hill?
Thank you, Mayor. And Derek, thank you as always. You're one of the most overworked people in the town of Wethersfield, so we appreciate all the work that you do. We've had some folks come up to us about concerns about Center Street, and whether now with the Charles there and we have all the parking, whether if there's, God forbid, there's an emergency, can a fire truck get down there, things of that nature. Will something like that kind of be addressed in like this grander master plan that we have for the infrastructure that you were talking about in regards to the larger parking lot behind the fire station?
I think I think it will help with the supply of parking available with regard to that specific location and why there's been a lot of parking there to be close to some of the destinations that may continue to be a problem. I think with the transitions of the town managers, over the last few months, I think that's something we just need to sit down with the police chief and the local traffic authority, who's the town manager, myself, and figure out what we're going to do. It's a difficult problem to solve. We may need to look at some no parking areas or no parking signs. I know we had met with residents a while back that lived in that area to talk specifically about that. Some people were proponents of certain ideas. Some people didn't like other ideas. So we'll have to figure it out. It's tricky, but I think there's been a little bit of delay in moving towards a decision just with some of the turnover we've had lately. So we should be able to circle back and make some decisions on that.
Appreciate that, as always. Thank you.
Sure.
Councilman Lesser?
Thank you, Mayor. And just to follow up on what Councilor Hill was asking, and also to thank you for all the hard work that you do. The master plan and the garage behind the firehouse, fire station, can you give us a quick timeline? I know how busy your group is and you are, but that, I think, could alleviate, and we hear from a lot of residents about the parking issues in Old Wethersfield, and that could, I hope, alleviate some of those issues. Can you just give us an update where we are?
Yes. A few months back, we had met with the affected property owners. As we've discussed with some of the conceptual plans, it affects town property, but as well as some private property located to the north and south of our property where the fire station is. So we had met with some owners. They had some concerns and comments. We've incorporated those into the plan. We're at a point now that we need to circle back with them and take a look at what we have some discussions regarding access agreements, how that's going to be handled with public parking on private lots. So those are the next steps that we have. Again, I think with some of the turnover with the town manager position, some of the stuff has kind of been put on hold a little bit till we could get Fred here established and ready to talk about it. So I think we're at that point now. As far as a timeline, you may remember we were given grant funding for $500,000 last year. That is enough to start the project, but not to do the complete project. However, some of the $4 million that we were discussing tonight. A portion of that could be put towards that project to do it in completion. So that's, once we have these conversations with the abutters, that would be the next step, is to talk about how we want to move forward with it, how we want to fund it. Realistically, we're going to have to bring in an outside consultant to do the design work for it, as much as I would love to do it. We just don't have time with staff right now. So that would be something we'll be talking about. As far as to be realistic on a timeline, given where it is, I'm sure there's going to be more public meetings and more public involvement and comments. It's likely it wouldn't happen next year. I'd be hoping for maybe the spring of 2024, but it all depends on how we want to prioritize. I mean, I've got a bunch of projects going on, and we can move some up and some down. It's a conversation we can certainly have.
Got it. Thank you, Derek. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Just going back to the crosswalk, Derek, are you suggesting that the crosswalk's going to move to the other side of the Keeney driveway to line up like with the Webb Barn driveway? Is that what you're?
Not that far north. The crosswalk is skewed right now because it's on the south side of the Keeney driveway and on the north side of the driveway across the street for Old Town. So we would be in that general vicinity. What I'm looking at doing is potentially relocating the Keeney driveway south. So the crosswalk will stay close to where it is right now, but the sidewalk, the access driveway for the Keeney Center may move. It's something that I had discussed briefly with the Historical Society. However, we're going to need to go back to them and have some conversations about it and make sure that all fits into their master plan that they're doing for some improvements on the property.
One of the property owners was, concerned about the location of the driveway in relation to their driveway into the rear of Old Town. Trying to move it away from that.
Well, we're limited on space. I know I've gotten some complaints about vehicles leaving the Keeney driveway and looking right and turning left into the crosswalk. That would be alleviated by what we're proposing to do, but at this point, it's only been conceptual. It's been a conceptual design, just some lines on paper. There are options that we can discuss, and I'm open to that.
Great. Thank you.
Just as a follow-up to that, you had mentioned the bump outs. I guess the bump outs are intended to slow cars down as they come into a narrower pattern. And then, is that the rationale for the narrow?
Yeah, that's something I think when we look at reconstructing Main Street, which is going to be due in the coming years, we're going to look at options like that. It serves two purposes. One, yes, it narrows the road in those locations and causes vehicles to drive slower. It also makes the crossing distance shorter, so it's safer for pedestrians. It improves sight lines so they have a better view as they're standing there, each direction. One of the reasons we're looking at the crosswalk where it is because that's the best location we have to get a good view looking north and south from it, as well as the need because of the public parking that is there now with the Keeney Center and that will be there with our parking lot we're discussing behind the firehouse. That's going to probably be a high traffic area for pedestrians.
And I'm sorry, I may have missed it because I was actually trying to bring it up on the map. The temporary crosswalk is to the south of the entrance to the Keeney Center, but to the north of the entrance to the restaurants that are right there. Where would you move? Where's the idea to move the crosswalk?
It's going to stay essentially where it is. Right now it's skewed.
Yes.
It crosses the road at an angle. Mm-hmm. So we'd like to make it a perpendicular crossing, which is the shortest and the safest way to do it. So it's going to stay generally in that vicinity. Okay. We're just looking at taking where the existing Keeney driveway connects to Main Street and shifting that south. So the driveway will have like an S shape, have a small bend in it to align it. Generally, you when you have driveways like that, unless they can be far enough apart, you prefer to have them across from each other, and that's going to get that close. We are still looking, and we still need to have conversations about the potential to change that one-way driveway on the north side of Old Town to two-way. But those conversations we still need. We've reached out to the state. We've had some conversations with them. I think we're going to talk to the museum again and see where that may go. And that would also affect what we're doing here. That's part of the reason aside from not having the funding necessarily in place or not having it readily available, that was the other holdup, was trying to figure out exactly what we're doing. Because I just want to make sure whatever we do there does not hamper us in what we're going to be doing for the future project. But
gotcha.
We can plan.
And then with the bump outs, does that allow for enough distance between like a bike lane that would go between the bump out and a vehicle?
Yeah, well, so the cones and the painting that's out there now was designed as a temporary bump out. Obviously, it's not raised. When we say bump out, the curb would come out, so it'd be a raised, extension of the existing curb line that people can stand on and see. So that's what it would be like. Yeah, as far as traffic lanes, we're looking like right now. Those are 13-foot lanes from the center, double yellow center line to where the bump out goes. We have about 13 feet, and the idea with that was, I think we're considering restriping to provide 10-foot lanes through that area, which will help slow traffic. Usually, we've done 11-foot in a lot of areas in town. I mean, I think in that particular area, 10-foot might make more sense. It's just going to slow traffic that much more. So with that, you would have a 10-foot travel lane and a 3-foot bike lane. Maybe it'll be 4 feet. I mean, that's where we really have to design it. We have gone out and surveyed the area, so I have the base mapping. We need to do that, so we can start looking at that and start generating some prices so we can move forward with the funding.
Gotcha. Okay. Any other questions for Derek? Hearing none? Thank you, Derek.
Welcome.
Sue, any updates or communications from the town clerk's office? She's going to do it.
Well, we have, at the last meeting, we discussed the procedures for boards and commissions. So I looked into that with the party chairs, and they were kind enough to let me know what they did, and so we put together an outline that you have in your packets. Do you have it? Yeah, I do. I have it right here. Thank you. So I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it or you have any questions. And then I also took an older application for boards and commissions and kind of just summarized it, made it a little more concise so that that would be something that we could use to put on the website so that when anybody was interested, we could just direct them there. And then everyone would be submitting basically the same types of information if they were interested in becoming a member to volunteer.
Okay.
Thank you, Sue. That was my
Yes.
my question. So, thanks.
Did that help you?
Yep.
Okay.
Nothing else, Sue?
I did just want to take a minute, and I had something written, but I have a lot of papers here. So I just wanted to take a minute to thank Lynn Rowe, who had been working in our office, taking care of the council duties for, various councils for many years, and she's taken a full-time position in planning, and, she worked very hard for us, and we will miss her. So I just wanted to take a minute to say that, and then also to welcome Deborah Hammer. She will be the new town council assistant doing the town council work there. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Deb Hammer's no stranger to Town Hall. I believe she's Deputy Registrar of Voters.
She worked in the registrar's office previously, and she helped with the 2020 election, and she helps in the other, she's helps the registrars as well on election night. So she's been in the town hall, and she knows a lot of different things.
Great.
She's very good, knowledgeable.
Great hire for that. Thank you, Sue. Moving on, we do have a number of appointments, but I believe we have just one resignation. If Mr. Yep, we can do appointment or resignation first, and then an appointment.
I make a motion to accept the resignation of Mary Pelletier from Town Council, term 61 State Street, term of 2021 to 2023. And also to make an appointment to Town Council, Shelley Carbone, 184 Highland Street, term of 6/21/22 to 11/13/23.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
You're the next contestant on the Town Council.
Welcome. It's sworn in?
Yeah, that's Monday.
Please raise your right hand and do Shelley Carbone solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Connecticut so long as you are a resident thereof, and that you will faithfully discharge according to all your duties as a member of the Weathersfield Town Council to the best of your ability, so help you God. I do. Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you so much.
I'll give you an opportunity to say a few brief remarks.
I will keep it very brief. So thank you for this opportunity to,
Yep, just a little bit.
is this thing on, right? I always wanted to do that. Thank you for the opportunity to serve with you, to serve our community and be on the council. I look forward to getting to know you and to working with you. I've been a Weathersfield resident for over 12 years, but I've been involved in the community a lot longer than that. My husband's business is here, our family and friends are here. My 4 children actually began their education in Weathersfield very, very long time ago, starting at First Church, ending up at Corpus, SDMS, and Highcrest. Weathersfield is a beautiful town. It's very rich in history, but I also think it has a very bright future, and I look forward to being part of that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, a couple more appointments. I think Councilman Forrest has those before us tonight,
Yep,
and we're going to time you on these.
yep, here we go. I'm going to make the following motion, and then I'll be looking for a second. Appointments as follows. Jeff Kotkin, Chair, 28 Farms Village Road, to the Assessment Board of Assessment Appeals, 6/21/22 to 6/30/28. Christine Fortunato, Vice Chair, 28 Fairmont Street, to the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee, 6/21/22 to 6/30/24. The following constables also have a 2-year term. Albert Bonfiglio, 33 Old Post Road, from 6/21/22 to 6/30/24. Blaze Riccio, 24 Pheasant Run, from 6/21/22 to 7/30/22. That's a filled seat. Michael Patkoski, 346 Wolcott Hill Road, 7/30/22 to 6/30/24. John O'Leary. Do we have an address for John O'Leary?
We've actually talked about this a couple times.
Yeah.
I believe it is permissible to have a P.O. box. I think in this instant, this gentleman, a number of years ago, prior to my role in this seat, we had discussed this, and there are certain privacy requirements that are required to fulfill some of these positions.
Okay. Can we confirm he's a member of, he's an elector of the town of Weathersfield?
Is this a 2-year term? So 2 years ago, I believe we did confirm that he is a resident. So unless he has moved since that period, I believe we did confirm it at his appointment 2 years ago, if memory serves me correctly.
Matt, usually
Yes.
when any people are reappointed or appointed, we usually go back to the voter registration just to make sure that they are still a registered voter in town.
And has that been done for Mr.
So we-
O'Leary?
I would say I've went through, yes.
Okay, great. Mr. John O'Leary, a resident of Weathersfield, at P.O. Box 2290002, as confirmed by the town clerk, for a period of 6/21/22 to 6/30/24. Thank you for working with me on that one. It's a little bit of a different animal. Paul Brady, 16 Church Street for the Weathersfield Advisory Committee for People with Disabilities, 6/21/22 to 6/30/24. Catherine Meyer Scheinberg, 279 Fox Hill Road, Weathersfield Advisory Committee for People with Disabilities, 6/21/22 to 6/30/24. Adam Saucier, 115 Bolter Road, same committee, 6/21/22 to 6/30/24. Susan Grady, 25 Westlook Road to the Fair Rent Commission for a 2-year term, 6/21/22 to 6/30/24. Harry Lichtenbaum, 16 Townhouse Lane, on the Fence Viewers, a very important committee actually, 6/21/22 to 6/30/24. So you get commentary. Flood and Erosion Control Board, Lorinda Kuhn, excellent attorney in town, 11 Robbins Lane, 6/21/22 to 6/30/25. Bazia de la Ripa, 37 Robbinswood Drive, I believe that is, 6/21/22 to 6/30/25. As an alternate, 3-year term to the Flood and Erosion Control Board. Historic District Commission, Jennifer Wolf as the chair, 345 Wilkett Hill Road, 6/21/22 to 6/30/27. Brent Owen, Vice Chair, 42 Wells Farms Drive, to the Inland Wetlands and Conservation Commission from a term of 6/21/22 to 6/30/25. Have I screwed everything up yet, Kenny?
You're all good.
Still good? Martha Connolly, Chair of the Library Board of Directors. We just saw her present today, 12 Fairmont Street, 6/21/22 to 6/30/25. Tracy Gianfrido, 43 Meadowgate, same board, Library Board of Directors, 7/1/22 to 6/30/25. Parks and Recreation Board, Thomas Mull, 159 Surrey Drive, 6/21/22 to 6/30/25. These next two are for the Personnel Appeals Board, Maria Alfonso, 256 Brimfield Road, 6/21/22 to 6/30/25. Christy Salters Pendault, 15 Fairmont Street, 6/21/22 to 6/30/25. Two for the Planning and Zoning Commission, Joe Hammer, Joseph L. Hammer, known as Joe, 65 Broad Street, 6/1/22 to 6/30/25 as the clerk. Anthony Holmicki, 223 Garden Street to fill Dan Silver and his passing, 6/21/22 to 6/30/25. Sorry, a little second there. Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, Eunice DeBella, 19 Dorleen Circle, 6/21/22 to 6/30/24. Phyllis Garcia, 2 Sharon Lane, 6/21/22 to 6/30/24. These are all for the these three are for the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee. Christine Taylor, 505 Silas Deane Highway, 6/21/22 to 6/30/24. To the Shade Tree Commission, Joseph Hickey Jr., 28 Meadowview Drive, 6/21/22 to 6/30/25. To the Veterans Commission, to fill the Mr. Biggs's position, Tricia Giscombe, 21 Stillman Road, 7/1/22 to 6/30/24, and Doug Shipman as the co-chair, 381 Hartford Avenue, 7/1/22 to 6/30/24. Two for the Zoning Board of Appeals, Paul Brady as an alternate, 16 Church Street, 6/21/22 to 6/30/25, and Matthew Tizinski, 29 Woodland Street, 6/21/22 and to 6/30/25, and I'd ask for a second.
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Forrest. Just going back, if you could bring up the town code on the fence viewers and their role in this town, I would appreciate it.
That's great. They're important. When people have disputes, you go to the fence viewers to try to resolve neighborhood disputes.
Fences make good neighbors. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you. Have a drink of water. Moving on down to item B3. This is approval of ordinances and resolutions. We had heard the public hearing on the allocations for public infrastructure and library improvements. It is before us. Derek had done a pretty good job of summarizing some of what what is in our packet. Are there any comments from town manager on this?
No, Mr. Mayor, I think this is a great opportunity for the town to get this funding. I know the libraries worked very hard to get the 1.7 that will be allocated to them. The other 2.3, as Derek mentioned, it's a great opportunity for us to fill in some gaps for some pretty important priority projects in the town, but also to look at some other things we might be able to do with that moving forward. So I recommend approval.
Great. Any comments or questions on this? We did hear from yes.
Just one quick question. Town manager, will this, and thank you, Mayor, will this help us move along the Wolcott Hill paving situation, that setup? Is that completely separate? Or will this help push it along?
I'll have to defer to Derek on where that's at and what it might need in terms of gap financing, but if it does need it, it could absolutely do that.
I just know you said some of the high priority items, and if you run in that street, or ride your bike, you know that's high priority.
Yeah, I could respond to that. No, Wolcott Hill Road is fully funded right now through LOTSIP, as well as some state grant and aid funding specifically for streetlights. That project, the bid was issued just the other day, so we're expecting a mid-July bid opening. If all goes well and quickly with state approvals for them, hoping to get construction started in August with substantial completion this year.
If you could start that, my birthday's August 10th, so if you start that, you'll make a proud man over here. So
I'll do what I can.
Appreciate that update, though.
As a fellow Leo, I knew I liked you for a reason.
Yes, sir.
This is it.
Okay. Well, I don't know if Brooke Berry wants to speak at all on any of the library improvements, just to fill us in. I know this has been before us for quite some time. You've had some architectural renderings in the years past during the CIP presentations. So.
Yes, and I would be more than happy to walk all of you through the plan again at any time with the tour is the easiest way. But we're looking to enlarge, just in a nutshell, we're looking to double the size of the teen area and put it in the back of the library, pull the newer books that are at the back of the library towards the front, so you don't have to go to the back of the library like milk, to get the item you want, the bestseller. And then to do new flooring on the lower level, or the majority of the lower level, as well as do some enhance the mezzanine level, or portions of the mezzanine level. So we're just so grateful that this money came through, and we're so grateful for the support at the local level, especially with Mayor Rell with that, and and the state legislators pulling their weight on this. It's just fabulous. So we're very, very, very excited to get started, and it's a unique opportunity for the library to work with the infamous Derek Greger. It's just very different because the projects that this money is just so different. So we're just really, really excited, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Brooke? No? Seeing none? Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you.
Can I have it? Is there a motion? You want to do it?
If the deputy mayor wants to, I don't mind either.
You know exactly, you've got the verbiage?
I've checked it out with the town manager. Thank you, Mayor. I will make a motion. I make a motion now, therefore, be it resolved by the Weathersfield Town Council that it is cognizant of the conditions and prerequisites for the state financial assistance imposed by Public Act 79-607, Section 21B6B, and that the filing of an application for state financial assistance by Town Manager Frederick J. Presley on behalf of the town of Weathersfield in an amount not to exceed $4 million is hereby approved, and that Town Manager Frederick J. Presley is directed to execute and file such application with the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development to provide such additional information to execute such other documents as may be required to execute an assistance agreement with the state of Connecticut for state financial assistance, if such an agreement is offered, to execute any amendments, decisions, revisions thereto, and to act as the authorized representative of the town of Weathersfield.
Second.
We need shorter motions. I understand.
State requirements. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. See, kids, this is why you need to do well in reading in your classes. All those names and that motion, there you go. And I heard yep, I was going to say something. You did a great job up there reading that. No wonder you're going into the 5th grade. You passed the 4th grade reading. Great job. Okay, moving on to approval, still on item 3, approval of ordinances and resolutions. This is the resolution before us for the school bond referendum. Again, we've had Colliers in, Superintendent Emmett, the Board of Education have been in. They've presented before us. I will open it up for discussion now before we put a motion before us. Councilman Lesser?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank the kids for coming out and speaking and being part of democracy. You did a great job. I really appreciate that you're here and being a part of this, and obviously for the parents for bringing them and letting us know how you feel about this. But special thanks to the kids.
Thank you. You're welcome.
That's it, Mayor.
Councilman Forrest, you had your hand up.
Thanks, Mayor. I think that the parents and the students that came up that sort of described the situation that we've known for years that have been ongoing with our schools. We have classrooms that are not part and in trailers in the backs of some schools or attached to some schools. We have leaking schools. I can remember one time when I went into Highcrest and was just blown away with just in a moment in time when I was walking down a hallway with the smell of urine. And it was like at that moment that you sort of sit back and you're so proud of your town and you want it to be great that you say, we can do better. And that's just one moment in time. There's other examples, of course, that were given by some of the residents here today, but we've talked to other residents that have very similar stories. And the reality is, I think that we can do better. And I'm not afraid publicly to say, I'm not afraid for our town to be great. And I'm not afraid for our buildings to represent that we cherish education, that we support education, that we know that we pay taxes like everyone here pays taxes, like everyone that's not here pays taxes, that we're willing to put our money where our mouth is to say education is important for ourselves, for a good and orderly society, for understanding the difference between truth and falsity, and learning the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic, and all those good things, and the advanced concepts too. And I had a note here. Sarah Smith, I think it was, came up and she said something like, "There's always an excuse why it's not the right time." And of course, there's an excuse. We could make the excuse for inflation. I remember 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when I was on this council, and it was the economy was tanking in 2008, and we had to put the whole thing on hold then. And then after the stock market comes back, but then unemployment went up. There's always an excuse. There's always an excuse. And we know that this is 200 and whatever, a large number now, but it's going to be a larger number in 5 years. And so eventually I think we have to say we're worth it and we're proud of ourselves. And so I will be voting yes to this particular motion to give it to the people who will ultimately decide, and we'll be just, all we're really doing today is giving the people the ultimate decision here. But the opportunity for the people to say, are we worth it? Is education in our buildings and our pride worth it enough to go on this endeavor, which is a large endeavor. There's no doubt about it. But I think we are worth it, and I'm willing to give the people the opportunity to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down, as the case may be. And I hope that everyone joins me.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Hill?
Thank you, Mayor. And as Councilor Forrest was saying, it's a reminder to everyone, this is not a simple vote for it, obviously, for this to pass and for us to write a check for a few $100 million. It's simply to allow the residents in town, the voters in town, the opportunity to basically have an at-bat, to say yes or no, I want the town of Weathersfield to move forward with these projects. As Ms. Smith said, or Ms. Hill said, that a lot of us here grew up in town, and we grew up in these same buildings. My older brothers and my cousins were in these buildings 50 years ago. Some might think, yes, it is time for these to be renovated and replaced. But again, to Mr. Woodward's point, I mean, we have 5 months from now to educate this community on all of the aspects, on the importance of this, what it's going to cost, what it's going to mean to your bottom line, what it's going to mean to your home value. All of that needs to be teased out. We have that time then to educate all the voters in town. But speaking now, I mean, it does need to be done, and I look forward to kind of making that pitch to voters for the next 5 months. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
There's nothing I can say, Mayor. The three of them pretty much shut it down for me. I can find something though if you want.
You'll have enough opportunity to speak in the next 5 months, I'm sure. Mr. Deputy Mayor?
Thanks everyone over there for the segue into my speech. That might take a little bit different approach. To answer Mr. Woodward's question, there's going to be a significant increase in your taxes. We are estimating a mill rate peak of over 6 mills for this project alone. We're talking about 15% increase in your property taxes. I'd like to back up a little bit and talk about the assessment that was prepared by Chuck Warrington here from Colliers. He listed a number of findings, major findings. His first bullet point says the schools are safe and well maintained. And I want to focus on safe. There was a lot of comments tonight about safety. After an extensive evaluation of the 5 schools, his judgment were that they were safe. Could they be better? Could you harden the entranceways, doors, windows, etc.? Yes, absolutely, you could. Do you have to tear the building down to do that? I don't believe so. We heard a lot about leaking roofs. We have had leaking roofs since as long as I can remember. My kids went to Charles Wright. There was skylights over the library area. Those leaked for over 20 years before it got repaired. 20 years. So we have a significant maintenance issue. We have a lot of deferred maintenance. Could we put roofs on all 5 buildings? Absolutely. We're going to do it if we renovate the 2 buildings and build 2 new ones. We're going to do 4 of the 5 buildings with new roofs. Could you do that without tearing the buildings down? Yes, you could. It could have been done year after year, and it wasn't. We have single pane windows in Webb that were scheduled for replacement 15 years ago when the building underwent a renovation. It never got done. It got cut out of the project due to, I'm only going to assume, due to cost increases for other items that came up, such as the asbestos that happened at the high school, things of that nature. The next item was masonry repairs, repointing of brickwork. Can we do that? Yes, absolutely, you can do that. And it goes on and on. You can do these different maintenance, I call them maintenance items. You could call them renovation items. But most people that own a home in Weathersfield, when things go wrong, they fix them. They don't knock the house down and put up a new house. It's just not practical. And so I think that there's other ways to do this. You'll notice that this project was labeled 4D, if I'm correct. There was other scenarios of doing one school at a time, of doing, I don't know all the scenarios, but there was different options. And committee, facilities committee, I believe it was called, they decided that the best option was to do all 4 at once, or a plan for 4 schools, not all at once. So there was other options. And I don't know if Mr. Warrington has input to that, if it was his desire to do all four on one referendum or split it up, or how that came to be. That's what's been put in front of us. Consolidation of the schools. I can't imagine having my kids that were in the Charles Wright District walk to school and then suddenly say, no, you're going to take a bus to Emerson Williams or wherever you get redistricted to. The idea of having a neighborhood school goes back a long ways in this town. Do a lot of kids take the bus? Absolutely, or to get rides from their parents. But it's the concept of being in the neighborhood with your neighbors and the kids all playing together and all that kind of stuff. I think that's important. And when I asked the question about cost savings of consolidating 4 schools to 5, there was no positive answer. We're not retiring any staff. Principal still is going to have a job somewhere. School nurse is going to have a job somewhere, and on, custodial. Usually when you consolidate, there's some savings involved. There was no savings presented. The true cost of the project. To me, this is one of the most disturbing parts, that it wasn't really presented to the public. The numbers are there, but it wasn't dwelled on. We heard about what the total cost of the project was. Bear with me a second. I can find it. Total cost of the project was $279 million. The state reimbursement of roughly 45% of $153 million. Amount to be financed, and this was represented as amount to be paid by the district of $164 million. What was not included in that $164 million is $92 million in financing costs. Now, that number is going to appear, when this goes to referendum, that $92 million, which is an estimate, and we really don't know where interest rates are going, all those excuses that Councilor Forrest talked about, inflation and where's the market going and so on, but we really don't know how to plan 10 to 12 years out, and that's what we're talking about doing. So $92 million to finance this project. Now, when the referendum question comes out, it's not going to read, that $92 million in debt service is not going to be part of the referendum question. It's going to be, do you want to authorize bonds in the amount of $279 million for this project? And there's going to be explanatory text that's going to describe what the state reimbursement's going to be. And it'll be in there somewheres, but you're going to have to look for it. It's not going to be promoted. People aren't going to hear about it. And the bottom line is, the taxes are drastically going to go up. Now, probably 3 years ago, I asked a question here in this chamber about student performance at the high school. We spent $85 million. We have a beautiful state-of-the-art high school. And I asked the question, does that facility translate to better school performance by our youth? I did not get an answer. I'm going to take that as a no. You don't have to have a brand-new building to get a great education. And I think most of the residents want a great education for all the students in Weathersfield. I don't think there's a dispute about that. My kids are long out of school, but I understand the concept of having a vibrant school system in a community. It grows the community. But I don't believe you have to have a shiny new building to do that. There was a resident that came in here 2 meetings ago, I believe, who raised the same question, who went to school at Yale, and he said, there's not very many new buildings at Yale, and he got a great education. So I would rather see this kind of money focused on improving education, getting the best bang for our buck out of the education side of it, and do the lesser options of the $30 million worth of work that the schools need right now, which is also not included in this proposal. So, obviously, I won't be supporting this. You can say it's just going to go, we're just advancing it to a referendum. Once we sign off on this tonight, the bond council has control of everything of how it's written and how it proceeds, and it's going to be very difficult to get the facts out there to the voters. There's going to be a coordinated effort to push this agenda through, and there are a lot of people that say, well, don't worry about it, it's not going to pass. Well, my question is, what happens when it does pass? And are we going to get 2 new schools, 2 refurbished schools, everything for $279 million? I venture to say no. We saw it at the high school. One of the first things to go was the geothermal system, because they came up short, they didn't have the money, they cut that out, and in my opinion, that would have been one of the few items that would have returned money in the long run to the residents. So, again, I just can't support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Any other comments? Well, I'll just, I'll follow up with some of the comments that have been made up here tonight. Mr. Deputy Mayor Mazzarella brings up a number of valid points. You know, the cost of this has not been fully weighed. It's not out there in any of the documents that we'd received. In fact, we had received it from our finance director. But it is something that the public should be aware of, that there is a $90 million, $92 million finance cost to this project. It is a project that we have seen over the last couple weeks, couple months, escalate in cost. I think this most latest number of $279 million was presented to us at the last meeting. It is a very, very large amount. If you think about the high school, where we were with that, and it was a bipartisan committee that had approved that, but it originally was a $75 million project. It did increase by $10 million due to some of the comments that the deputy mayor had brought up. The concern there is that, you know, when you do an increase and you find certain aspects of the building to have to pay for, certain things would be cut out of those. And I do agree that the geothermal would have been a very beneficial cost-saving measure for that high school. But certain things come and go, and building committees decide on those. There are a number of other concerns, and you know, listening to some of the folks that had spoken here tonight about the cost of those and the impact they would have on the mill rates. I would like to echo what Mr. Woodward had said, that going forward, that either this council or a future board or a future council really do consider the impact that any of their increases in the budget would have on the residents. Because a mill rate increase, as we had seen in our most recent budget, compounded with the increase in mill rates due to the financing of this project, it's probably going to be more than the 15% on residents and taxpayers. But on the other hand, you know, listening to what, you know, my colleagues on the left had stated earlier, the Board of Ed, the administration, Colliers, prior to this council, prior to the previous council, prior to the previous Board of Ed, and prior to the current Board of Ed, had worked on this project. There's been a lot that has gone into this project. There were four, as noted, four different scenarios that were presented. This is the most recent scenario. There has been, and I don't know if it's true or not, conversations that were had that amongst either the full board or the building committee of the Board of Ed, that we shouldn't be looking at this as a four-building project all in one, that we should consider this a referendum to do just one building. Unfortunately, and I think that, for me, that would have probably been the best way to go, to use this as a stage to set future referendums. I think Mr. Worthington and I discussed South Windsor. This is something that they had considered, and in fact, that first vote on all four buildings did fail, and they decided to go one by one, for all four buildings. I think that is probably the best way to go. I don't want to see a referendum fail come November, but I do believe, as I stated earlier, that a lot of work by previous boards of ed have gone into the, coming up with this conceptual plan. It may be cliche to say, but it really is up to the voters to decide on how, or yes or no, to whether or not to do this. We are elected by folks that either support us or don't support us, like us or don't like us, but I would hope they read up on us and they do their due diligence and their homework to know exactly where we stand on certain issues and certain measures that we would be faced with to vote on in the future. So I ask that the residents, when they do look at this in November, that they read carefully, that they make a conscious decision on whether or not they're going to support this or not support it, and why they would want to do that. There will be education going forward on this. I believe there are groups that would be supporting it, and there will be groups that would be opposing it. The public should do their homework, learn about it, as well as make a decision themselves on where they want to see this town go. If they want to see it with a more vibrant education, with newer buildings, or if they want to see it with a mill rate that is kept at a level, hopefully, that we're seeing currently. So with that, I will be supporting this tonight to move it forward so that this is an option for the voters to decide in November. And with that said, there are three motions, and I believe, Mrs. Town Clerk, that we would have to read each one of those and vote on them individually by a roll call vote, if I am not mistaken.
Mayor, would you like to do those individually or at the same time with a roll call?
Gotta do these three, or the whole resolution.
One at a time?
Yep.
Okay.
One at a time? Yes, actually, I believe some of them. And then that brings to a question that I had, and I think the town manager had answered that. If we look at the...
Mr. Mayor, can I say something?
Yes.
So I'm a little late at the game with this, and so I don't have all the information other than my packet to look at. I didn't get to hear anybody speak from the Board of Education and what this would not entail, but my child, my youngest, is actually special education, and he did go to Highcrest, and he was in a closet. But I have to tell you, that wasn't my issue. My issue is that, unfortunately, our teachers, a lot of them aren't prepared to accommodate certain levels of disability. So for me personally, I felt that, money into programs that would help educate our teachers, to help educate our children, would be much better spent, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. And I do, unfortunately, have a difficult time making this decision, just because I don't have all the background information. So I apologize, but I probably will not be, I will be abstaining from this vote.
Okay. Yep. Every right to. It literally is a lot. $279 million worth to make a decision on only being up here for just a brief couple minutes. So we do respect that. If we look at the one for Hammer Elementary School project, and if folks have it in front of them, it does say and to establish the building, and all of them say this, and to establish the building committee, let's see, where was it? To authorize the Board of Education to submit a grant application to the Commissioner of State Administrative Services for the Hanmer Elementary School project, and to establish the building committee and the preparation of schematic drawings and outline specifications for the project. The project is the Hanmer Elementary School. I just wanted on the record that we do currently have a Weathersfield High School and Hanmer Elementary School building committee. So this would supersede any existing building committee. And if I'm not mistaken, we do not need 3-4 separate building committees. We can do this all within one building committee, an elementary school building committee that would be established in the future. I believe that is done by the Board of Education and not by council.
No, we create the building committee.
We do create it.
We build the buildings, they educate.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to make that point about the Hanmer Elementary School.
It's still, yeah, the motion is the top part, so a
Yep.
motion.
The
to
statement of
authorize,
purpose, sure.
blah, 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 yeah.
Yep. It's actually spelled out in the action required, motion to approve.
Is that, you want to read these, or these?
I,
Have the price in it.
right, I would do the one with the price, the actual motions under the statement of purpose.
Yeah. Want me to read them?
Sure. You guys
Ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. You ready?
Yeah, I mean, I can read them.
Oh, you're going to vote for it, I'm sure.
No, I'm not, but I can still read it. It's like,
I had a question for Ms. Carbone, though. If are we still in discussion parts?
We still are.
May I have the floor for a second?
Sure.
I was listening to your experience at Highcrest, and I was not quite, I have a child who also has an IEP, and they do get this kind of closet. They're in a closet, and they do the education sort of in this closet for the specialist type of a concept in some areas. So I was trying to follow or understand, did you think that the money is better spent for training of teachers than this project, or that this project will be well-spent money to enhance that situation that we just talked about with the closet? I was listening, but I didn't know if I followed.
Can I respond? Is that
Sure.
okay?
Yeah.
So thank you for clarifying. I apologize. I'm a little nervous. This is my first time,
You've been here for
being
15
part of this.
minutes.
I know, I'm like, for 5 seconds I've been here.
Of course.
So with my son, it was, he's now 15, and he's in high school. So this has been a minute ago, but it's been something we've been dealing with since kindergarten with him. Education has always been very important to me and to my children. So when we noticed there was an issue with my youngest, being the mama bear, you push and push and push.
Sure.
I can honestly say that everybody that we encountered here was not capable of accommodating his level of disability in the public school. And it was very frustrating for us as a family. And it wasn't for lack of trying. The teachers were amazing and they did the best they could. But I did find that, going through that process, I thought we could be better prepared to handle children with these levels of disability. And I also believe now that, with the experience we've all just had with COVID and online learning, there's more kids that have slipped through the cracks. And I honestly think spending this level of money just on buildings, and as great as that is, honestly, who doesn't want a beautiful building and your children to be happy and excited to go to school? But being on that side of it, I really didn't, that wasn't my focus, was the area in which he was in. My focus on what is he getting for his education, how are they helping him get through this? And I think there's all pieces to this puzzle, and it's not just one definitive answer.
Sure.
But again, I also agree with what Tom was saying and what the mayor was saying about maybe doing it in stages would be better. And I almost wish we could somehow incorporate that piece in this as well, like spending X amount of dollars to help our educators educate our kids.
Right. That's usually done through the main budget, right? The main education budget, where we get to make those types of we don't make the necessary decision, we make the allocation of funds
Okay.
for the teachers and specialists and support staff and all that great stuff. That's usually done through the general budget, the general education budget.
I just missed that, right?
Yeah,
Man.
just missed it, yeah.
You're lucky.
But you'll get another shot at it very soon.
Great.
It turns around before you know it.
Great.
Thank you for that insight, by the way.
Oh, of course.
And actually, if Mr. Emmett would, I believe there was a number of bills and public acts that were approved this legislative session that addresses a number of the mental health concerns, special education concerns, and some of the loss of learning during the pandemic, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully, we will be seeing some of those funds come into the district in the near future, if not this budget year, in future budget years soon. So.
Correct, thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, I think we're ready for some motions.
Okay, motion to authorize the town manager and the director of finance to cause the preparation of a bond ordinance for a referendum in connection with the Weathersfield Elementary School projects in an estimated amount not to exceed $279 million.
Second.
Okay, Sue, are you writing these down? Okay. Motion was made by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councilman Forrest. Roll call vote in favor. I'll start down.
In favor.
Oh, actually, yeah.
Clerk?
I'm sorry, I saw you look at me, Mayor.
Yeah, I'm
so,
sorry. No, I was.
You know,
Thank you. Okay, Counselor Biggs?
Multitasking.
in favor.
Counselor Carbone?
Abstain.
Counselor Forrest?
Yes.
Counselor Hill?
Yes.
Counselor Lesser?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Mazzarella?
No.
And Mayor Rell?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I have 5 yes, 1 no, 1 abstention.
Okay. Motion passes. Second one.
Motion to authorize the Board of Education to submit a grant application to the Commissioner of State Administrative Services for the Hanmer Elementary School project and to establish the building committee and the preparation of schematic drawings and outline specifications for the project.
Second.
Motion has been made by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councilman Forrest. Madam Clerk. Roll call, please.
Counselor Biggs?
Yes.
Counselor Carbone? Counselor Forrest?
Yes.
Counselor Hill?
Yes.
Counselor Lesser?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor?
No.
Mayor Rell?
Yes.
Thank you. 5 to 1.
Motion passes. Third and final.
It's not here. There it is. A motion to authorize the Board of Education to submit a grant application to the Commissioner of State Administrative Services for the Highcrest Elementary School project and to establish the building committee and the preparation of schematic drawings and outline specifications for the project.
Second.
A motion was made by Deputy Mayor Mazzarella, seconded by Councilman Forrest. Madam Clerk.
Counselor Biggs?
Yes.
Counselor Carbone? Counselor Forrest?
Yes.
Counselor Hill?
Yes.
Counselor Lesser?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Mazzarella?
No.
Mayor Rell?
Wow.
Did not do that.
That's absolutely classic. Wow. One of the best moments in Weathersfield Town Council history in at least 20 years.
I don't know how that happened.
See, kids, you know, we do have some fun. We have our own recess up here.
The algorithms work.
Mayor Rell is yes.
Thank you. 5 yes, 1 no, 1 abstention.
Okay. No unfinished business before us. There are a number of bids before us. Bids, this is the approval of a consultant for the Kisha Farm development of a conceptual site plan. And I will open it up for comments from town manager or Kathy Bagley, Director of Parks and Rec?
Good evening. I'm back here this week asking for permission to move forward with a consultant for the Kisha Farms for the conceptual site plan for looking at the property and then determining what are going to be the best uses based on what the community reuse recommendations were. Those have all been given to the through the RFP to develop a site plan that will identify different features that were all identified in our RFP, which included some of the things that we'll be looking at. They'll be looking at, in the conceptual site plan, farming, community gardens, a multi-use, full-size regulation athletic field, accessible multi-purpose recreation trail, and also all the amenities that go with that include parking areas, pedestrian circulation, sight lines, street views, and general recommendations for landscaping, and to also include landscaping to address any neighborhood issues. So that's all part of what this conceptual site plan would provide to us. And we're recommending, we went through the usual town procedure to advertise it. We sent out to 4 different vendors that we were made aware of. And also the town also advertises the RFPs and bids on the website of the state of Connecticut called Connecticut Source. And it's also done as a advertisement in the Hartford Courant. So we do that with all our bids and RFPs. And we got one bidder that went forward with this, and this was the UConn's Community Research and Design Collaborative from our university at Storrs. And their primary responsibility is part of their outreach work of their landscape architectural faculty. And they've done projects similar to this in other communities. So they're able to work within our budget. We interviewed them. They understand what all our deliverables are and what we're looking to receive, because this is all determined by the grant that was submitted to the Department of Agriculture. And that's how we're funding this, both through the Department of Agriculture's $6,000 grant and a $3,000 match from the town.
Any questions or comments for Mrs. Bagley? Mr. Deputy Mayor?
Hi, Kathy. Thank you for coming in. I have a few questions, and I'm trying to get a handle on how we got to this conceptual site plan proposal. On March 28th, we had an agenda item to approve $3,000 for land surveying grant. And the justification was that we were going to have a land survey completed of the farm. I was in support of that. I thought we should have had a survey of the property earlier on than where we ended up, but nevertheless, we had an opportunity for a grant for a farm viability study. I questioned the use of the grant funds for a farm viability study to do a land survey, and I brought that forward to our former interim town manager, Bonnie Therian, and she contacted the people that were handling the grant, Agricultural Marketing, Connecticut Department of Agriculture, and Bonnie asked the question, could we use the money to do a survey of the land? The woman replied, the grant funds awarded will be used to conduct the survey of the land. Once you receive the results of the survey, which areas are suitable for agriculture versus recreation, etc. How the land is used is up to the town of Weathersfield. I said, okay, so we'll proceed. Going back to the initial presentation that we received from the Kisha Farm Committee, they gave us a proposal, I believe it was in March. It had 5 bullet points. Number 4 is, Kisha Farm Committee recommends that the town engage a professional land use surveyor to create a conceptual design plan to properly site the areas best suited for agriculture, active and passive recreation trails, etc. So, my question is, are these people professional land surveyors? Are they going to do a survey with measuring instruments and create a plot plan of the property with all the wetlands delineated, where the house is, where the barn is, where easements are, and document it and have it like an A2 survey that you can file as a record, something that a Derek Greger type person can work with. These are real numbers. From what I read of what's going to be done, it's a conceptual site plan where someone's going to look at the property, walk around the property and say, hey, that's a good place for a barn, it's already there, and we can have some parking in the front, and maybe we can do greenhouses in the back, and on the other side, this is already being hayed, so Kisha family farmed it, so we can farm it there. Oh, by the way, number 1 on the list, 29% of the people that were surveyed wanted recreational fields. Now, Kathy, you know all about recreational fields. How many recreational fields could you use right now? How many more than we already have? I'm going to guess you could use a couple soccer fields, maybe a baseball field, little league, whatever, etc., etc. But here we're only looking for 1 field and a large farm. That's what it says in the application. So I just don't think we're getting what we agreed to. We were asking for a survey, and I don't see where we're going to get that. Maybe I'm wrong. Further to that, it only went out to 4 outfits. It didn't go out to Close, Jensen, and Miller right on the Southstein Highway that's done all kinds of surveying for the town. Why didn't we ask them? Could you do a survey? Well, when you read the RFP, it doesn't ask for a survey. It asks for a conceptual plan. So I think that's why you didn't get the responses that we should have received. The title is Request for Proposal, Consultant Services, Development of a Conceptual Site Plan for Kisha Farms. It doesn't talk about surveying. I just don't see that we're getting what we approved. I'd like to see it reissued for a survey. And that's, I guess, all I have to say. Well, I don't know if you know if they're qualified surveyors that work at the school. I don't think so, but you know, you have to get a license for that. So,
Well, the director of the project is Professor Peter Minuti, who's also a professional architect. So we do have that professional process along with other staff from UConn that are part of the landscape architecture department of the school. So we are going to get that professional area looking at it. As part of the survey, we didn't use the word survey because we were looking at when we wrote the RFP up, we were taking it from the grant application document, what was approved, what was the contract that we signed with the state, and what we're looking to get. And I'll just read a little bit about, you mentioned our RFP that went out in terms of the scope of services. So we asked for, there's a research phase that's going to include them doing site visit, Identify the natural and cultural features of the property. Identify areas suitable for farming and best location of farm fields and possible areas of farmland expansion. Identify areas suitable for location of multi-use full-size regulation field. Identify areas suitable for accessible multi-purpose recreational trail. Then it goes into B, which is the conceptual site plan that include locations for the top community reuse recommendations. Then it goes into a preliminary design of a site plan that's going to look at the entire property, along with a final design that's going to give us, if you will, a site plan of everything. An official survey is not, we did not ask for in this RFP. And then the outcomes we're going to get are different areas where these things can fit, along the way there will be process for community involvement and resident involvement. So it's still another process to go through to develop where are the best areas to do things on the property.
And then once you have that, we're going to have to, and once that's agreed upon, I hope by this body, but I'm not sure, once it's agreed upon, the first step is you're going to have to go have the property surveyed. Because a conceptual plan with a sketch of where you think a ball field could be is not the same thing as of what you're going to get. You can't do anything with that. You need a design person to say, the slope of the land where that field is intended to go, it's not feasible. You'd have to move 9,000 cubic yards of soil to make the soccer field level, for example. So it's not a good option. I don't think you're going to get that from a conceptual. You're going to get ideas, which I honestly believe those conceptual ideas already exist in the Kisha Farm Committee. They've already talked about where these things can go. They've already talked about, if you'll notice, in the grant application, the people that are proposing to do the work, they're mentioned in the grant. I mean, it's kind of like we're going to use UConn to help us do this. Then you get the grant, and gee, they're the only ones that submitted the bid. That seems awful coincidental to me. So
I would just say, based upon, I came into this late, but based upon the presentation that was given, I didn't interpret it as being a land survey, as you're talking about, as like a property line survey. It was a survey of the land, which, and I've dealt a lot with Department of Agriculture over the years. They make you do this type of work to say what's the land suitable. They look at the soils, they look at the slope, they look at, rock outcroppings, things like that, and they require you to do that on properties before you move forward with the step you're talking about, where you actually lay out the plan, and then you do the surveys that are required to submit the building plans and to move earth. But I understand where the confusion was, because it did say survey of the land, which it's not particular, a licensed land surveyor is not what it was proposed, but, and I don't think anywhere it said property line surveys, but I might be wrong.
well, it said in their 5 bullet points, it said professional land surveyor. That's what it said. That's what they recommended that we do.
For this phase?
Yep.
Okay.
That was they gave us 5 bullet points of what should be done with the property.
Well, that would take up the whole $10,000 for a property that size to do a professional
Yeah.
land survey.
But,
You'd be doing nothing else. Yeah.
that was the motion that we voted on. The motion reads to approve the money for a land survey. It doesn't say a conceptual site plan. It didn't say it in the opening statement of the agenda item, the justification. It said land survey. So I voted on land survey. That's not what we have. Whether or not there's enough money to pay for that or not, that's a totally different. I question if the individual from UConn is a professional land surveyor. I mean, if he does, he can draw that thing and put a stamp on it. Say,
I think the product that we would get would be similar to a master plan, conceptual site plan, It's all the same thing where you actually do this, you go out, you identify where things could fit. And then you use that plan as you get funding to begin to implement it. And then when you get into that implementation stage, as the town manager said, that's when you then start doing and getting into the final details. We were looking to get a master plan, a conceptual site plan for $9,000 to look at the 32 plus acres and tell us where things would best fit, identify where the wetlands are, so those are going to be for different issues, identify where the flat land is. I think that was all part of the survey, and if I were to go back to the grant application, it speaks to a conceptual site plan / master plan.
And I go back to the motion and item that we already voted on that did not discuss conceptual site plan. It said a survey, so, you know, I said my, you can hit the buzzer there over there, Ryan, with the, that was pretty good.
Nothing to do with it, I promise.
Anyways, moving on.
Any other comments? Councilman Forrest?
Thanks. Kathy, sort of building a little bit off of what Tom was Councilor Mazza, Deputy Mayor, was talking about, is when we go out and do the conceptual plan, is it true that whether it's an architect or the support individuals, they are looking at the surveys of various kinds, whether it's a technical land survey, or I've certainly seen surveys during the purchase of the property and wetland designations, acreage, and are they viewing the property and identifying with this information that we have what the sort of best use is, considering what we want to do as a town? Is that the concept that we're talking about here?
Yes.
So they wouldn't put a baseball field in the middle of a wetlands because they're using the surveys that they have or that they're going to do, whether it's a technical survey that we talked about or a different kind of survey, to come up with the best use or a conceptual best use. That's the concept about what our next step is.
That's correct.
All right. And I'm guessing that they would look at the deeds that exist and the actual land surveys that we do currently possess to determine whether or not we have the various rights and easements and so forth in order to come up with this concept. So it wouldn't be a concept made out of, and there's a question here, but it's not going to be a concept that, hey, this is like the best use, but we didn't really check to see if there was a giant CLMP, it's not CLMP, Eversource easement going through the middle, and now it's thrown up because you can't put a field there because CLMP's got it. But we'd be checking all those, that sort of legal land surveys and various surveys to determine whether or not the conceptual site plan would be feasible. Is that the concept here?
That's part of the research.
In this step?
In this step, yes.
Right. Okay. The Deputy Mayor did mention that, I don't know if limit of one field was what you said, but that there's a concept of only one field in here necessarily. Is that generally accurate, that sort of decision has been made at this time?
Nope, those are just recommendations from the Kisha Farm Committee that came out of the community recommendations to look at putting a field there.
Well, there was certainly, out of the recommendations, which we were all here for, like a certain amount, here are where the top priorities of the town are. But I don't know if we designated necessarily one field versus two field versus a football field versus a soccer field versus anything else. Did we make any of those qualitative decisions?
No, the request is just to determine can a full-size athletic multi-purpose field be put on the property. It may be able to
I'm wondering,
take.
is that specific?
It may be able to have more. I don't want to limit that there's more. But when they submitted the grant to the State Department of Agriculture, they identified that they would look for at least one field to fit there, and where would be the best place.
Who's they?
I believe Mr. Deputy Mayor has.
Yeah, I need a seatbelt over here. I'm getting agitated.
Should I stop?
This is the copy of the grant application.
Hold on.
Okay?
Can I?
Go ahead.
All right. So we're just trying to understand here, obviously.
Sure.
Welcome, Shelley.
Yeah. There's a history here. So So when we put in this application, and you do keep mentioning sort of a field as a, is that are we limited to a field in this concept, or?
No, because whatever comes out of this master plan, the conceptual site plan, is going to go through more reviews by different people and different groups, particularly the town council, as far as what will end up being the final process. And any master plan that we do, there is a process we run it through. And we've taken, the Kisha Farm Committee has taken public input. They've turned that into a grant application to the State Department of Agriculture to get some funding to look at the master plan. They're going to come up with a master plan that is going to be probably they're going to come out with a recommendation or a couple of recommendations to start with. It's not that they're just going to give us one plan to look at. They're going to go out, look at the land, come back and say, these are the kinds of things that can fit here, you can do this, this, and this, and we can begin to talk to people to bring that more to a consensus of where we want it to be. And that would always end up with council.
So, thank you for that. As we go through this process, are we anticipating that we will have maybe a few even concepts, like you could have 2 fields, you could have 1 field and more agriculture, you could have a little bit less agriculture, you could have more fields, you could have, or whatever it is, a swimming pool, it could be anything, right? Like, will they take the survey because the Kisha Farm Committee doesn't exist anymore. So we'll take some of that data and they will come up with a few concepts that will then sort of have a back and forth between council and them, another committee and them. What's your concept here?
It could be any way you'd like it. I mean, we're looking to hire a vendor to come in and give us possibilities. That's how you start with the master plan. You don't just do one plan, but you do look at it as a total thing, and they should give us different alternatives to look at. And then council can choose to tell us how you want us to go about bringing that to a concept that might work. Does that help?
It does. No, it does very much so, actually. So the first thing I'm understanding is, we're not limited to necessarily, although it may be the recommendation, 1 field. We're going to have a back and forth that will create multiple concepts with input, this is my understanding, likely from council as they develop the feasibility plan. Is that accurate?
Yeah, they're going to go out, they're going to walk the site, we're going to give them all the information they need that we have, and they're going to come back and say, here's some things to look at, these are some alternates, these are things we think are feasible for you to consider.
Now, in that concept, I'm guessing, of course, the survey and the big results that we got will be part of their direction. Will they be looking to, and it's not exclusively council or somebody else or Park and Recs board, right? Could maybe even to say, hey, it's such a large thing, they could do so many things with it, and there are 4 or 5 or 6 different priorities. Is there more? What is the anticipated more input that they would get as they start to develop these multiple concepts?
I would think they would do their due diligence, meet with, originally it's set up to start with me as the director,
Okay.
to at least begin to see what they're starting to put together, and then begin to see what will be the process to take these alternatives and figure out what's going to be the best way to get input from residents, from the council, and probably take direction from the town manager and the council.
Right. All right. Thank you very much, Kathy. It's a reasonable step forward. We don't need a $50,000 land survey. We have to get concept. We have to understand the topography and the rest of it, or at least ensure that it fits in there. And I'm comfortable with the back and forth, as Kathy, the director Bagley has talked about. And I was picking up on a concern that the deputy mayor had, obviously, that we might be pigeonholed into one thing or another. And I am confident now upon the answers that we would not be, and there'll be continued dialogue in order to come to at least an understanding about what we think will be, the best use of the land. So I'll be voting for it, and I think it's a good first step, especially from a money standpoint. I'm not interested in throwing $30,000, $50,000 into, very specific land surveys when we haven't even gotten sort of blocked out our concepts here that we could drive forward with something like that. So I'll be supporting it.
Mr. Deputy Mayor?
So I just want to respond to a couple items that were brought up, okay? I have in front of me the application for the grant, okay? Vision for the community is the establishment of a large, viable, organic community farm with some walking trails, a possible recreation field. One recreational field. If you go to the Kisha Farm Committee meeting minutes, they have decided one synthetic field. One. That's decided by the Kisha Farm Committee. I don't know that they have the power to make that decision, but they did, and it's in the minutes, okay? In the RFP, description of the project, 2 points. 1, establish a community farm modeled after the Massaro Farm in Woodbridge with a CSA program and community gardens. That's the number 1 bullet. Number 2, active and passive recreational areas on the property compatible with farming. This idea of a farm has been before they even closed on the property. I can show you in the minutes where the Massaro Farm was brought in. The woman gave a presentation on what they did with the farm. It's much smaller than the piece of property that we have and how much money they made and all this good stuff. This program is geared towards a farm. It is not geared towards recreational fields. And Councilor Forrest, I gotta say, in our budget meeting, you read off a list of fields that should be either repaired, improved, or added. Multiple fields. Now we have a big piece of land that I'm told we can't do anything else with, okay? I can't divulge that officially, but...
we are
Yeah.
on camera,
Yeah, no, I can't say it.
Oh,
But we can't only do certain things with that parcel, okay? I say take advantage of it and put multiple fields there. That 29% of the people that filled out their survey asked for. So I want a survey of somebody to go there and measure and look at all the obstacles and give us proof that you can put 2 soccer fields there, a separate football field, basketball, baseball, whatever you want. Have a whole complex of all these fields that everybody is screaming about. We don't have enough fields. They're worn out. They get too much use, et cetera, et cetera. Take advantage of that. Instead, we're going to have a farm viability grant to see if you can farm a piece of property. That was a farm, okay? The Kisha family farmed it for years, and they didn't make a very good living at it. So I don't see where the CSA plan is going to make any money. It's like, I'm just frustrated with, this is what we're going to do, and we vote for it, and now it's something else. And it's described tonight as, oh, this is just one plan, and I'm sure you're going to get all kinds of opportunity to weigh in and decide what you want to do. No, what's going to happen is you're going to get this conceptual plan. Someone's going to come and present it and says, here's what we came up with. Vote yes or no. That's all I have. Thanks.
Mr. Town Manager?
I would say that from this point on, we control this process. It's no longer the Kisha Farm Committee, and we take direction from this council. So the way I've done, and I've done these projects before, and I've dealt with Department of Agriculture on similar projects like this before, the way that I've seen it done is they look at the entire property and they color code it, and they color code the areas that are best for farming. It's based on soils, it's based on topography, it's based upon other factors. And then what's best for fields, again, based upon what type of soils, what type of topography, how well drained it is, all those types of things go into it. They color code the different areas. They can overlap. We can have really good potential farmland. It also would be a really good field. Sometimes they don't overlap. But then at the end of it, they make up little cards, and they put these big maps on the table, and they have cards, and this card is a soccer field per the scale of the map. And you can put it over those colored areas and say, well, we can fit 2 soccer fields here, we can put, a baseball field over here, and that allows the process to go through, and then you can kind of start to visualize, and then based upon that exercise, you come out of it and say, this is your direction. Like somebody said, the Kisha Farm Committee is no longer serving, right? So they're going to set up a nonprofit, and that's fine, but at this point, moving forward, it is this council's decision on what you want to do, and I'm hearing from, I think, everybody that we want to see multiple options of what's possible on that property. That's what you will get. We will direct the consultants to do exactly that. And then it won't be, this is the plan. It's going to be scenario 4D, It's going to be scenario 1A, 1B, 1C, 2B, and we'll go through that process. And then you all can give us direction on which one we want to direct the consultant to do a final concept plan. And then from that, we'll go to that next step of hiring a designer if the council wants to invest the funds to do that, to actually survey the land, lay everything out, and then come forward with a plan to move it forward.
Is the Kisha Farm Committee dissolved, officially dissolved?
I was invited to what I was told was their last meeting, and I attended that a while ago, so.
I thought there was a list of meetings on the board.
They are creating a nonprofit, but that's going to be separate from the town.
Is the nonprofit a town-sanctioned program? I see it on the town calendar. They hold their meetings in council chambers. It looks like a town committee. It sounds like a town committee. I'm not sure that it is. Can any nonprofit have their meetings here?
We do provide the space
Yes.
to several local community
Yes.
groups. What's the status of the committee right now, Kathy?
I think I guess they're not, to my knowledge, that they haven't been officially said that they're over. That's usually, they still have a couple of things, and they were looking to provide input with this site plan. So I don't think they view themselves, I think they thought they might have been done, but they're looking forward to having input on this.
And they should. I mean, I think several different groups should have an input on this. The people that are, the different sports leagues should have an input on
I
this.
think they should have an input on it as a Kisha Farm for All 501 and not as a committee. They're done. They have this survey. That's what they said they were going to do. And I don't think they should have wield any more power to decide what's going to be done with the property than any other sports group or council members or member of the public. So if they're dissolved, they're dissolved. We should say it.
I understand your concern because they're mentioned several times in here as almost having creative, power over this thing.
Well,
So it's a little.
I took the time to read the minutes of the Kisha Farm Committee, and it was, I gotta say, it just got out of control. The town manager was trying to steer them on the right path. They were tasked with gathering town residents' input of what they wanted to do with the property. And the minutes are just littered with, oh, let's do this, let's do that. And the previous town manager said, it's really not what you want, it's what everybody else wants, and you're boxing yourselves in. Don't restore the greenhouses yet, because we don't know if that's where they're gonna end up, or if they're even gonna be there. And it just kept going like this, and it's like, I just find it extremely frustrating that a small group is controlling 32 acres of land, and then it gets brought to the council like, here it is, vote for this conceptual plan thing. That's not what I'm sorry, but it said survey. I'm expecting a survey. Enough said. Thank you.
In the bid, Kathy, it does say, this is on page, I think, 3. Specific services, the consultant will be expected to attend a kickoff meeting with the project coordinator and members of the Kisha Farm Committee. So this had come out prior May 10th, 2022. So this was after the final recommendation of the Kisha Farm Committee in their,
Yes.
not their motion, but their concept to dissolve.
Recommendations.
Their recommendations, but then their idea that they would disband shortly thereafter. Is there, I mean, obviously this is an RFP, we don't have to go by it 100%, but I mean, can that consultant come before us? Can we hear from them some of the concerns that the deputy mayor had brought up? Could you relay that to?
Oh, I planned on it, yes.
Because I would like to hear from them, what their ideas were. I mean, Mr. Town Manager I'm picturing those, soccer fields and baseball fields by scale and moving those around. I would like to see them do that, but then also a little bit more and hear from not only the members of the Kisha Farm Committee, but members of the council, their ideas, everybody's collective ideas for this property. Because it does, I mean, this troubles me in reading this, the two bullets that are mentioned here. Establishment of a community farm modeled after the Massaro Farm in Woodbridge with the CSA programs and community gardens, active and passive recreation areas on the property compatible with farming. Is a synthetic athletic field compatible with farming? I don't know.
That would be partly what the consultant would look at.
Is, a softball field with dugouts compatible with farming?
Does it need to be?
Well, I don't know.
Does it need to be? That's the question. Why does it need to be compatible with farming?
Right. I mean, that's what I'm getting at.
I don't mean to
So,
jump in.
no. So, I mean, I hear and I've heard for a while the deputy mayor's concerns and comments about the direction this committee had gone. And it's like, I'm starting to get the sense that they're putting the cart before the horse on a lot of this stuff. I was on the council, and Mr. Young reminds us every 2 weeks that I think I may have been the only member on this council to have voted for that. I don't know if you were there as well. So the two of us, I voted for it because I had heard the concerns about Mill Woods, about Charles Wright, the first or second year of lacrosse at Cove Park, and the conditions of the fields. Yeah, I was always, and I'm sorry if I'm naive, 4 years ago, that I voted in favor of this, thinking that we could utilize this property as athletic fields, just like we were having a conversation a half hour ago of bringing in or building new schools to bring in, families that want to come into Weathersfield. Farms are great. Fields and athletic fields, coupled with with schools, state-of-the-art schools, will really market Weathersfield in the future. So I would like to hear from this group, and I would like this group to hear from us, our ideas collectively from the Kisha Farm Committee members, if there is no committee anymore, and council on where we see this parcel going. I don't know if we're all in agreement that we would like to see some type of athletic fields on there, but I think that may be the will of not only the 29% who took the survey, but the majority on this council. So with that, I am not comfortable voting for this yet before we hear from, I guess, I don't know, can we hear from a bid awardee before we award the bid to them? I mean, they can come in and present to us.
Sure. Give a sales pitch.
And I feel like we've done that before, where they've presented to us before we approve them to.
He's talking about UConn.
I know. I'm saying, I feel like we've done that before with a project and the person has not yet been awarded that project. They've presented what they would do in that project.
Are you suggesting, thank you, Mayor, are you suggesting that the Yukon group come in, talk to us before we vote on them and try and understand better the scope of what they're gonna do and ask them potentially to do some different things? Is that what you're suggesting?
Hear from them and then also give them an opportunity to hear from us and maybe some members of the Kisha Farm Committee of,
We can find out if the director is a certified licensed.
I'm okay with that. I
fancier.
mean, one person, I think that's reasonable.
Mm-hmm. And we don't, I mean, you can choose who you would want. I mean, I don't think we need the graduate students or anything, but the director.
No, it would be, probably we'd ask the director to come in.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I would want to check before we did that was just to check with the Department of Agriculture that gave us the grant to make sure that we have all this flexibility just to be on the safe side that we're still going to meet the grant that they're giving us. That's all. I would just want to double check that.
Okay. And then I just had, is there a $1,000 match that was included?
It's in volunteer hours.
Okay, so it is correct in that it says the budget for this project is not to exceed $9,000. We do not have $1,000. We have volunteer hours.
Correct,
Got
yes.
it. Okay, I do remember the additional $1,000 that was included. But I guess it's now volunteer hours.
Just to clarify, it's 3,000 from us. 6,000, yes, okay.
Yes.
Our cost is 3,000.
Yeah, but I remember the original cost was 10,000.
The original number was 10,000.
The original number was 10,000.
And they were looking for a 6,000, 4,000. And they said, well, can we come up with 3,000 in dollars and 1,000 in volunteer hours as a match? And that happens in other projects.
And they were okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I can either make a motion to table or we can put a vote out on the floor. Councilman Forrest?
Can I just ask you, Mayor, there's concerns about our ability to control the direction of this, but we've heard from the town manager and Kathy Bagley that we are in complete control and that they will come to us to get a concept of what we want in order to develop it. So we're going to ask UConn if the town manager is telling us an accurate statement? Is that what we're doing here? I'm trying to, there's these concerns about past practice, but we are hearing from the town manager, correct me if I'm wrong, Fred, Kathy, that we control this whole project and the people that have input to it and don't have input to it. But we're concerned that other people are controlling it, even though we're hearing from our manager that that's not true. So can you help me understand the disconnect there? Because I'm not understanding why there's belief at this council that someone else controls this project, but our town manager is telling, and our director of public, our director of Parks and Rec is telling us that we control this project. And what am I not understanding in that concept?
Well, I mean, if we did control it, I think we should have not said establishment of a community farm modeled after the Massaro Farm in Woodbridge, and then active and passive recreation areas on the property compatible with farming. If you got two separate ones, and we do control it, and it would be the will of 29% who had taken the survey and members of the Kisha Farm Committee, I would have said yes to the community farm, and then active passive recreation areas on the property. Simple as that. But, I don't know what I'm starting to read into the direction of this, where we're going with this, and while we may control it, it's how far along the process do we lose control of it, is my concern. And I don't know if,
The town manager said we legally never lose control of it. We can lose control of it to the extent that we give up the control, but we have never done that. So I'm trying to understand, like, what is the fear of losing control when we haven't ever lost control? Unless somebody, right? Am I wrong, Fred? Do we ever lose control of this? Do we have control over this property? And it's.
Again, we take direction from the council on all of our projects. And if you tell us that this is the way it needs to move forward, if it doesn't conform with what was bid, then we might have to go back out and do it again. And we'll sit down with the contractor here, in this case, UConn, and say, this is the direction we have from the council. We would like you to come, whether you approve it tonight or not, at some point, come back to the council, walk through, hear their concerns, hear their desires, speak to the members of the Kisha Farm group as well, hear their desires and what they envision, and then come back with scenarios that kind of blend those things together. You know, you say you're fine with the community garden, the CSA concept, doesn't mean that's the whole site. It's 32 acres, you know, so, you know, what's possible on the site based upon the survey of the land. That's what they're really being asked to tell, and we will be the ones driving the project at this point. I'll say that a lot of the language in here is because, frankly, the Kisha Farm Committee wrote the grant proposal.
Yeah. Yep.
And they wrote the recommendations, and they took the initiative to get this money. So good for them, and good for us too, because we're saving money, frankly, in this process. But once it becomes a town project, it's our project. We don't give up the projects to committees. We don't give up the projects to other groups. The town staff run the projects, and that's at the direction of the council. So that was my only point.
So I just want to be clear. So what you're saying is you believe it's a great idea for them to come here and give us more information before moving forward with this?
No, I'm not saying before. I said they'll definitely have to do that, but I don't know that it needs to be before or after. But, I mean, it could be either way. It's the direction of the council. I mean, I don't think that moving forward is going to jeopardize this project at all. But if the council's more comfortable holding off and bringing them in first, we can certainly do that.
okay. I have the utmost confidence in you, Fred. Then we will do that, you know. And, Mr. Deputy Mayor?
Can we make a decision to disband the Kisha Farm Committee now? If it's up to us, what do we need their committee's involvement in this process? They've written the RFP.
I think Kathy wrote the RFP.
Well, it's based off the grant. They wrote the grant.
Yeah, I wrote the RFP based off the grant.
But when do we have to go back to how we originally appointed them to be this committee before disbanding and see what the wording is?
Sorry.
When do we have to see how we originally appointed them to be the Kisha Farm Committee before we could even talk about that? Because I'm pretty sure when we did that, there's some literature in there that we have to follow along.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at it from the legality standpoints.
Mr. Deputy Mayor?
I think when they presented their recommendations, they said they were done. They were going to disband. At least that's what I heard. But now it's going to go, and they want to have more input into this conceptual site plan. And I don't, you know, I'm talking about losing control, and Matt, Councilor Forrest disagrees with me, yet this is the way the project has gone. There was first a grant application to restore the greenhouses, and they just applied for the grant. And there was no discussion about whether we were even going to use that land for greenhouses. But they applied for the grant. They didn't happen to get it. Next, it was the historical designation for the barn. We didn't know if we were going to tear the barn down and put a firehouse there, for example. We didn't know that. But they moved forward with it. Then, you know, I get called to the such and such for why would I vote against having a free evaluation of a historic building designation. And I mean, it keeps going and going, and that's just the way I feel. I have a different opinion than what the committee has, so they're right, I'm wrong, and never mind the 27,000 residents in town. So I just don't agree with the whole concept of that. And now they've done what they were tasked to do. They were supposed to survey the residents. They did that. They were supposed to give us their presentation. They did that. I mean, they're done. It's like, if you read their 5 bullet points when they gave a presentation, it was having to do with the farm, the farm, the farm. And oh, by the way, Kathy Bagley can handle the recreational fields because we don't want anything to do with that. I mean, sorry, but, you know, it just got dumped on Kathy Bagley. Oh, Parks and Recreation is better suited than us, so and there it goes. And it got reduced to a recreational field, and that's what I have a problem with. So we keep having, and if you read the whole, it's like a 14-page application, and it's not just a farm, it's a large farm, okay? We want to use most of the land for farming and a little piece to satisfy the people that want an athletic field there. So I'm sorry I keep bringing things up, but it just,
Hey, Don.
you know, you got to say what you got to say. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
And I can understand your distracting path, but we control it.
And I think part of the premise when the Kisha Farm Committee was looking at everything was they were also trying to look at ways that when they thought about the farm, that at some point that could be self-sustaining and maybe in a way generate revenue towards the future, whether it was to build a field or to put other things on the property. I think they were looking at it from that perspective, that money was tight and what could be things that could go there that would take advantage of the land. It'd remain as open space in some fashion, but also they would look at ways that maybe it could generate revenue. Because I think at the beginning of when they started, they took that approach that, you know, there's not a lot of funds available. How can we use the land and still make it generate revenue? So I think there was a concept there also. And I think they've really put a lot of effort and volunteer hours and a lot of working with, whether it was the University of Hartford or with the residents when they did their different surveys and things, trying to gauge what the community wanted to see there. So I think they made a real effort to get as much input as they could get to see what direction to go in.
Thank you, Kathy. And, you know, I just have to, you know, I guess final comments on this is that I don't want to relinquish any control over what, you know, this council can do on that property. You know, I don't want to be able to, you know, say, oh, we missed an opportunity there and that slipped away from us. We missed an opportunity here and that slipped away from us. And all of a sudden now, we're now going down a trajectory where we're already starting to go this way when we could have not stopped it, but given direction prior to change of course. So with that said, I am comfortable with what Councilman Forrest and our town manager has stated, that this, if it does go forward, that this council is the ultimate decision maker in what this project looks like in the future. If there's no other questions, I'll call for a motion on this.
Yeah, do a motion.
You got it in front of you?
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, may I have the floor?
You may.
I move this council to approve the hiring of UConn's Community Research and Design Collaborative to develop a conceptual site plan for Kisha Farms based on the community reuse recommendations at a cost of $9,000.
Second.
Any further discussion on this? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Any abstentions? Ayes have it. I think it carries 6-1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I got to go back to where we are. Okay. Agent of record, and I do see a member of the insurance committee here tonight with us to possibly answer any questions or provide any feedback. This is something, if you all remember, a couple months ago, we did have our current vendor, USI, come in and present to us. Some comments and some concerns and questions were had at that time, that the decision to just simply renew a contract with a vendor for the town without any, full vetting of the council. I know there was a vetting by the insurance committee, but not a formal RFP from the town hadn't been set yet. So we did ask Mike O'Neill and the insurance committee to come up with a bid proposal, which was submitted and returned back to us. I believe there was a couple of bids before us, and I don't know if everybody had the bids in their packet, had a chance to look at them, but if anybody's got any comments or questions on those, I'll open the floor to any comments. Hearing none. Polly, do you have anything you want to say on behalf of the insurance committee? Or?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Questions? Thank you.
Any questions for Councilman Hill?
Thanks, Mayor. So the insurance committee, am I correct in saying that they unanimously approved USI for this?
Yes.
Correct. I would I would support that decision made by the insurance committee and approve, make that motion move forward.
Okay. And I would just say, every so often we do get items before this council where we simply renew a contract, be it a recommendation of a staff person or a committee, boards or a committee, that it really is a benefit to the not only those of us up here to learn more and get a little bit more insight, but it also provides for the public to know that we are doing somewhat of our due diligence to go out and look every so often what the market has before us. This was one of those cases, came back with the same recommendation of USI. I had no problems with USI. I just simply said, this is an opportunity for us to look at comparables, and if there's an opportunity to either save money for the town and the taxpayers, great. If they have different ideas, different proposals before us, something conceptually different that maybe the insurance committee or any other committee could look at and think that would be a benefit to our town that we're not currently receiving. I just simply think it's a good exercise for this council to every once in a while go out and kick the tires, if you will, to see what else is out there. So no harm, no foul on this.
Thank you, Mayor. I would agree. It does make sense to go out to bid every so often. It protects the taxpayers, and it's good due diligence on our part. We have been well served by USI, and I think we will continue to be well served by USI. And I'll put the motion on the floor, if I have the correct motion, I hope. Motion to appoint USI as agent of record for employee insurances and benefits coverage pursuant to the terms outlined in the request for proposal dated May 3rd, 2022, and the responding proposal by USI.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. I believe there is a second one.
I think so. I think it's this one. Yep. If I can have the floor, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move to appoint USI Insurance Services, Inc. as agent of record for commercial property casualty coverages pursuant to the terms outlined in the request for proposals dated May 3rd, 2022, and the responding proposal by USI. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. A motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Moving right along. Other businesses, ordinance and resolutions for introduction. Now I got to switch over to another page. Yep. We've had this for my time on council and Councilman Forrest. I think you've seen it as well. I don't think on the Board of Ed, they don't meet in the summertime, so.
Don't even try.
They don't even try.
Just kidding, just a joke.
But Mr. Town Manager had noticed that we did vote on a set schedule for our 2022 year, I was going to say school year, town council meetings. And we did have 2 meetings for July and 2 meetings for August. We would cancel the second meeting in July and cancel the second meeting in August. I think I discussed this last meeting that, obviously if anything merits a need for immediate attention, we would call ourselves into a special meeting. But that, I don't know if there's official motion for us. So sorry.
Anybody? Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I will miss.
Why don't
we'll give? It's good.
Yeah.
Sure.
Which one am I reading? Sorry. I've never done this before. I'm very excited. So how do I do it?
Good idea, Mayor.
No, that's
No,
not it.
I will miss you guys those meetings that we aren't together though.
We can all get together.
Yeah. Have a drink.
Just gonna send out a notice.
Or stagger our entrances and exits.
I had it. I just didn't know which part I was reading. So motion to eliminate the meetings of July 18th, 2022 and August 15th, 2022.
Second.
Well done, Councilor Carbone. Well done.
all worded wrong. We're gonna do it all.
Wait, was it a meeting?
Yeah.
Well done.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. Finally, under other business, this is the merit increase for the town clerk. I don't know if we actually have that. I don't have it in my packet.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it either, but I could have missed it.
Did you miss it?
I didn't see it.
You all discussed it in closed session, you just have to come out and
Okay.
vote on what you discussed.
Oh, okay. So,
We didn't do that step.
Do we?
Do you want to? I don't have the number. Unless you want to straight up do it, Mayor, or
I think we have it as a percentage.
It was, you agreed to 3%, I believe.
Yep. 3% above the
current salary level.
budgeted salary level.
Yep.
Budgeted or current?
Budgeted.
Just want to
Yeah, it
you have
depends
that-
on
you have that-
when did that merit,
It was
the merit was included in the
Yeah.
in the
You're right.
in the budget,
Budgeted?
yes.
So 3% more than budgeted.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, it's the 2 merit, I mean, it's the 2 COLA plus the
Yeah.
merit.
Do we have an actual number? Is that better?
5%. No, I don't know the exact number. It's 3% of salary. We did it. We
Yeah,
had it.
because that's why it's after the budget, because it includes those codes.
Yeah. Yeah.
didn't
You
have.
just let Sue fill in the number. She does the minutes.
We authorize Sue to determine her own salary.
And we'll have to review those minutes.
Do I get points for that?
Absolutely.
Maybe you can adjust the minutes, take out some of my.
There's no ums in the minutes anymore.
Yeah.
That's great. Beautifully complete sentence.
You're
We're
approving,
sure it's 3?
what you're approving is a merit.
Of 3.
Increase, period. That's what you're approving.
Of 3%.
Yes. That's all. You don't, the rest of it is, you don't even have to mention.
Okay. You ready?
Sure.
May I have the floor, Mayor?
You may.
I move that the town clerk salary be set at an increase of 3% over the current budgeted salary.
Second.
Let her have the second there, Tom.
Hasn't done it yet.
Okay, go ahead.
I second it.
Actually, if I may, you said current FY '23 budgeted salary.
Oh, man, now we got a second.
So we have to amend that?
We do have to amend.
So
Remove your second.
I remove
you
my
can't.
second.
It's not-
I can't
it's before
rescind
the
it.
do we have to vote it down?
Yeah.
Or do we have to vote on it?
We could vote it down. and
You
then
can do a
again.
friendly amendment.
Isn't it just,
Yeah. It's a-
If you didn't vote on it?
Let's just do a friendly amendment.
All right, I move a friendly amendment to modify the previous motion to say
Take out current.
Fiscal year '23 budgeted salary by 3%.
remove current salary to fiscal year
'23.
23 budgeted salary.
I second it.
It's an amendment, Mayor, remember, do that first.
Yep. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Amendment passes. On the underlying motion now before us, which is a 3% increase above the FY '23 budgeted salary. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. New business, Mr. Town Manager talked briefly in his opening remarks that Eversource has agreed to hold off on tree removal at 480 Hartford Avenue until our new tree warden comes in, or town arborist comes in, so we don't have to take any action on that. So
Move the table?
I do need to move it to the table. All those in favor of
Until, well, you got to table.
So I moved the table.
But
We
it's
have to
got,
give a
it
date?
can't just be, yeah, you got, or at least until the town manager designates it to be put back on the,
Yeah.
schedule.
Make a motion to,
Actually, how about you just remove it?
I
If
think-
we table it, it sticks
Yeah,
out there, it
yeah.
hangs
That's
out.
fine.
Just remove it and he'll put it back on.
That's
You-
fine.
You okay with that, Mayor? Yeah. Move
So-
to remove from the agenda.
second.
No, you started.
No, you're getting in the minutes a lot.
Oh, wait a second. You just moved to remove it from the agenda, and I just seconded.
Great. Nice job.
Okay.
Look at us work together.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. That item is removed. Minutes of the June 6th meeting, as I say all the time.
Sue has a
can
Oh.
you just clarify who, is that Ken and
No, Matt and Mike, I think.
Matt made,
Okay.
Matt made the motion, I seconded,
Okay.
on item 7A. Thank you. And if I'm remembering correctly, everybody here, with the exception of Councilwoman Carbone, was here for the minute, or for the meeting on June 6th. And if you guys have had a chance to read them.
Move to approve?
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Any abstentions?
Abstain.
And motion carries. Thank you. One person in the audience, Mr. Young, second public comment section.
Good evening, Robert Young, 20 Copper Mill Road. I like the discussion on this concept versus the survey, because the concept is a very lightweight thing, the survey is heavyweight, and it means different dollars. Just want to throw that out, guys. I also like the discussion tonight, Mayor, regarding, and Deputy Mayor, regarding talking about what the interest rate was going to be, or the interest payments over 20 years on that $164 million that we're going to be voting on. I'm glad that 95 million came out, 96 million. That's a lot of money when you add those two together. And if we're going to tack on 6 mills, that's a tremendous increase. I mean, we didn't increase our mill rate this year, did we? If it was tiny. Last year, it was nothing. Another year or two with Uncle Joe's extra money, all of a sudden that runs out, and then this thing will start picking up, and we're going to get clobbered. We're going to be at 50 mills in a short while, in a few, maybe 4 years. Maybe 4 or 5 years, we'll be at 50 mills with this baby if it passes. And I don't understand why these folks didn't put out these 4 different scenarios for the citizens to look at and understand, and maybe that's what they should have had for a referendum, the 4 referendums. What do you want, 1, 2, 3, or 4? But no, a selected few people decided not to do that and do it the way they did it. And I hope it fails. Because 6 mil rate increase is going to be a choker. And Mr. Forrest had mentioned that they have known for years. Didn't you say that, Mr. Forrest? You've known this for years, the conditions of the school buildings and whatnot. And now they should really be repaired. You're a steward of all this town, Mr. Forrest. If you knew that these things needed repairs, you should have stepped up and petitioned to fix some of these things. You didn't do it. You had windows. I think the deputy mayor mentioned windows over at the Webb School, which I've talked about ever since the Webb School was renovated. They didn't put new windows in. No, they spent the money elsewhere. And I understood that the windows are fogged up all the time. And of course, it releases cool air from inside and it lets the cold air come inside. But you didn't help take care of that, Mr. Forrest. You knew that this stuff was all going on. Now, let's just do a big package. I hope it fails. You won't get my vote. Next, more discussion on the Kisha farm. You know, Mayor, I've asked you not once, not twice, but a number of times to do a schematic on the Kisha farm for over 55, for 55 and over homes. Those are small homes, but they sell for nice money. And they generate nice real estate taxes. I mean, go look at these homes that they have. I pointed out to you folks, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, over in Millington, I don't remember, right before you get to the Berlin Turnpike, there's a nice little community in there. Those homes sell for $380,000, $400,000. And they pay taxes at $9,000, $10,000, $11,000 each. Go down the Rocky Hill, there's across from the old St. James Church, there's a nice community there built by a Wethersfield guy. I don't remember what his name is. But the fact is, these homes are sitting on small plots. They're called PUDs, where there's like condo association. The roads are a little narrower because they don't expect big traffic to go in there. They're built specially for people who are over 55 and retirees who are looking for a small, nice home that they can live in and maybe have another home somewhere else. But the fact is, they pay real estate taxes. And it's good taxes. They don't have children going to schools that cost $18,000 a child. And then you have Kathy Bagley come in here with a package that's a disgrace. And that commission that they say, oh, they work so hard, oh, they scanned the neighborhoods and the whole town of Wethersfield. They went on Facebook and places where people like myself don't go. They scan those areas for people to talk, and they get their votes that way. And to come down to one of their meetings at 5 o'clock, I'm done work at that time, and I'm hoping to have my supper. Not at 5. I'm not coming to a meeting at 5 o'clock. I'm lucky to make it here to 7. Okay? But they didn't scan the whole neighborhood or the whole town for getting their opinions. But they came up with their special interests. Hiking, open space kind of walking places, farming, and sports. Sports that is the most uneconomical program you can have for a town. Look at what you did with Carbone Field, what, 20 years ago, 15 years ago? You put turf on there. Mr. O'Connor stood up at the podium and talked about what an economic revival we're going to have in town with turf on the field. We're going to have lights on the field. We're going to have people coming from all over creation. Go back and look at those minutes back at that time. And what'd you get for economic development? You got zip. We got every 8 years, 9 years, another $1 million plus to put new turf down. Where did all the revenues go for those people that went to those games and paid the fee to get in? You have no idea where it went. Nobody knows where it went.
Mr. Young?
It went into an account
Time is
with
starting
the
to
Board
come
of
up.
Education, and then it disappeared. Thank you very much, Mayor. I have more to say.
Thank you. Before we go into executive session, I do want to recognize, thank you, Councilman Lesser, for bringing it to our attention earlier this year that Monday, even though Juneteenth fell on Sunday the 19th, the holiday is recognized on Monday, the 20th. But on behalf of the town, we do have a proclamation recognizing Juneteenth. Whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, declaring the slaves in Confederate territory free, paving the way for the passing of the 13th Amendment, which formally abolished slavery in the United States of America. And whereas word about the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation was delayed some 2.5 years to June 19, 1865, in reaching authorities and African Americans in the South and Southwestern United States. And whereas June 19th has a special meaning to African Americans and is called Juneteenth, combining the words June and 19th, and has been celebrated by the African American community for over 150 years. Now therefore, I, Michael L. Rell, Mayor of the Town of Weathersfield, do hereby recognize Juneteenth on the 20th day of June 2022 in the Town of Weathersfield, Connecticut, and urge all citizens to become more aware of the significance of this celebration in African American history and in the heritage of our nation and town. In witness whereof, I hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the Town of Weathersfield to be affixed this 21st day of June 2022. Thank you. I think Weathersfield has been a pioneer in this because I recall we've been doing this for a number of years before the state and the Fed recognized it as a national holiday. And for that, we should be very proud.
It's true. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, everyone, for changing the date from last night to tonight in honor of Juneteenth.
Appreciate that. Motion to go into executive session.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. We are in.